we know just yet, although you can basically bet that when ETFs move violently, the flows underneath them are going to chase. So I don't think that's been driven by flows, but basically if you looked at, the small caps or even the pure value ETF, RPV I always look at, which is the statistically cheapest stocks in the S&P, it basically went straight up as momentum went straight down. So been a very mechanical move. I think it peaked on Tuesday. We'll see if it continues.
So does it feel to you now like August was a refresh, like a true back up the truck moment?
I don't know about back up the truck, but
That's
it feels like
Easter,
exactly. It feels like the moment when you kind of dodged the bullet. The market kind of bent but didn't break, and people got way more negative and cautiously positioned than you would expect for a 6% pullback in the S&P. So I do think we did kind of front load a lot of fear, and now we're kind of feeding off it to get back to the old highs.
Mike, thank you.
Okay.
Let's get over to HQ now and Sue Herrera for a CNBC News update this hour. Hi, Sue.
Good morning, Contessa. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. California utility PG&E agreeing in principle to an $11 billion settlement representing about 85% of the insurance claims outstanding. This to resolve claims arising from the 2017 Northern California wildfires and the 2018 deadly Camp Fire. The European Commission says EU President Juncker will meet with British Prime Minister Johnson on Monday in Luxembourg for face-to-face Brexit talks. Johnson saying today there was the, quote, rough shape of a Brexit deal to be done, and he was cautiously optimistic an agreement could be reached to smooth Britain's exit from the European Union. New Zealand's government planning further restrictions to gun ownership. A bill introduced into Parliament today would create a register to track all guns in the country and require gun owners to renew their gun licenses every 5 years instead of 10.
We absolutely recognise there is legitimate and a need in our communities to be able to access guns, particularly our rural community. But what these changes do is recognise that actually there's a real responsibility that comes with gun ownership.
You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. I will send it back downtown to you, Contessa.
All right, Sue, thank you. When we return, is Apple's streaming service becoming an antitrust issue? Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Jim Stewart will give us his answer to that question when Squawk on the Street returns.
ETF Spotlight is sponsored by Invesco QQ.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your accounts all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nason and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. APRA net or protected, subject to availability and conditions.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
Markets nearing record highs with the Dow aiming for its 8th straight day of gains. Dom 2 is taking a look at some of the moves and and the hunt for some yield. Dom.
All right, so Contessa, with interest rates bouncing off the lows that we've seen over the course of the past couple of weeks, we are highlighting some of the themes that have been developing as investors who look for income, whether it's bond interest or dividend payments, starts to heat up. A reminder here that the S&P 500 currently yields just shy of 2%. The 10-year Treasury yield is at 1.85. Investment-grade bond ETFs currently around 3.5% yield, high-yield ETFs near 5.5%, and certain senior bank loans yielding 5.5% as well. One other place we're watching is in master limited partnerships, those investments geared around energy pipelines and other infrastructure that in essence charge tolls to move product. Some of those are high-yielding as well, and this particular ETF, one of those ones that tracks them, the Alerian MLP ETF at least, is one that we're watching as well. Also watching what's happening with certain parts of the market with the S&P 500. If you take a look at some of the stocks that are close to their 52-week highs and yield at least 4%, we've whittled it down to about 9 or 10 names that kind of fit that bill. Among the highlights, telecom stocks like Verizon, 4.1% yield. Southern Company as a utility, 4.2%. Even tech companies like Seagate Technology on the memory chip and hard drive side of things, 4.5% yield. And of course, AT&T, activist investor now in that stock, a 5.3% yield. So, Carl, there are numerous places within the atmosphere for investors right now where they continue to hunt it. The question is whether or not some of those assets have become so richly valued that they are no longer value investments themselves. Carl, back over to you.
Definitely a topic viewers want to hear more about, Dom. That's good stuff. Dom Chu on some yield movers. Meantime, the House Antitrust Panel is ramping up their investigation into big tech. Ilan Mui joins us this morning with the latest. Hi, Ilan.
Hi, Carl. Well, the House Judiciary Committee is now requesting a slew of detailed documents from big tech companies, including emails and communication from top executives. Now, this is all part of its ongoing antitrust investigation. And on CNBC earlier today, the ranking Republican on the committee, Doug Collins, said that lawmakers have a very long list of questions about a broad set of issues.
You cannot have a conversation concerning the competitive nature or the size dominance of a Alphabet or Google, who the parent company of Google, or a Facebook or an Apple or an Amazon, without having also the same concerns because of the amount of information that they store and actually keep.
Now, the committee did send letters to Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google, and the requests were really very specific. In the case of Facebook, lawmakers want information on the acquisitions of Instagram, WhatsApp, Lenovo, and others. Meanwhile, on Amazon, they're interested in the algorithms for search, the pricing for Prime. They want details on AWS, and they're even going all the way back to the acquisition of Whole Foods. On Google, the purchases of DoubleClick, AdMob, and YouTube are of interest. And for Apple, lawmakers are focused on why certain apps were removed from the App Store. Guys, they are also asking for any documents that companies have turned over to the DOJ and the FTC as part of those antitrust investigations. And the deadline to submit everything is October 14th. Back over to you.
Ilan, thank you. Ilan Moy. Next, our guest up says Apple could face new antitrust scrutiny as it further pushes into streaming. The company looking to lure viewers to Apple TV Plus by making it free for buyers of Apple hardware. And that does lead to a question. Well, does that give it an unfair advantage? Joining us here at Post 9, Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times columnist, CNBC contributor Jim Stewart. Okay. Does Apple, you buy an iPad, you get Apple Plus for free. Is that unfair?
Yeah, doesn't that sound great? I mean, everybody's happy when somebody gives you something for free until it leads to some kind of market dominance. And obviously, Apple isn't there yet. But I found this giving it away free part is the most fascinating part of Apple's announcements this week. It's clearly following the Amazon model, which gave Amazon Prime free, quote unquote, to anyone who is an Amazon Prime member. I remember when that happened thinking, well, wait a minute, what does streaming have to do with free delivery? But all of a sudden there it was on my screen and I started watching it. I think it is a huge advantage, and the market hasn't really appreciated this yet, that if you can get the streaming embedded on your screen, whatever it takes, you get a huge advantage over people who are going to make you pay for it. I don't care what you pay, $2.95, $6.95, $10.95. If you have to sign up for an account and have your credit card charged, that's a barrier to entry. If it's just there, free, you're going to try it out.
Right, even if it's an introductory thing, it's not like, I don't think you get it free forever. I think it's 1 year.
It's 1 year, but I wonder, Apple could obviously tweak this. First of all, they could extend it to all Apple product users. They could make it longer than 1 year. I mean, they have a lot of flexibility. This is where they're starting. They're obviously testing this. They'd like to maximize profits. And they do have a disadvantage in that the good existing content has pretty much all been snapped up. So they're not going to be able to do reruns of, Leave It to Beaver or something. Somebody's already got that. They're creating new material. They're kind of the HBO model, which could be very successful. Now, the problem, I think, from an antitrust perspective, and this is true of Apple, it's certainly also going to be true of Amazon, if they achieve a level of dominance in streaming,
they're not going to achieve a level of dominance in streaming.
I'd say we're a long way from there, but if they do, it looks like a tying arrangement. You give something away free if you have another product. It's like Microsoft putting its browser embedded on the machine. Exactly the same problem. So if they really succeed here, which I agree at the moment is a long shot, they're going to get some scrutiny from that. But I think it's also important, again, I'm looking at those yields you just showed on AT&T, and there's a lot of market skepticism about AT&T. But I keep wondering, couldn't AT&T embrace some of this strategy? I mean, AT&T has a lot of customers. And if you suddenly start letting them sample things, or why don't you try HBO, we'll give you HBO free for a while. I mean, I think there's a lot of maneuvering room. The problem for the legacy media companies, they don't have any other products to tie the entertainment to. Even Disney. I mean, I think Disney has a powerful brand. It has the content. It'll do it. But you start moving down beyond Disney, what do they tie it to?
No, they got to make money, too, to AT&T. They need to make money also. They can't be giving HBO away for free.
No. You're right.
By the way, Hollywood Reporter has a piece up just now that J.J. Abrams turned down a ton of money from Apple to go to Warner. So it's not like they're going to have the lion's share of talent necessarily, but maybe that's not your exact point.
Look, everybody has a price. And Apple is clearly going to be feeling their way through this. And I think, look, I think the streaming wars is one of the big, fascinating long-term stories of our day, and who knows where it's all going to turn out. Everybody is kind of getting in there, feeling their way, but a lot could change. But, again, it's great right now for talent. I'm sure J.J. Abrams got a good deal with Warner, but, at some price, he'd go to Apple. So the possibilities are out there. It depends on who has the deepest pockets and how far down in those pockets they're willing to go.
It's interesting. You were really pointing out, too, what a warning sign it is that Tim Cook turned around and sold the shares of Apple that he had just gotten from the company. And what your takeaway is on that? What do you read into that?
Well, I think it's hard to know. He still has a big ownership stake. I don't know what he's doing with his money. Is he going to buy something like the Washington Post? I don't know what he's going to do with it. I don't read a whole lot into that. But I think it's true of all these tech companies right now. They're at inflection points. How can Apple grow at a double-digit rate, given how large it already is? There may be more promising opportunities to put your money, and I could see why you might want to diversify a little bit.
So when I heard they were lowering the price of the iPhone, I think, well, maybe it would make more people interested in it if you put a price point that seems more modest than what it was. Oh, look, it's a bargain. Everybody loves a bargain. Should we read into that differently, that they think that maybe the iPhone's not going to be the big winner for them that it has been?
Well, I think anytime you see price being used as a competitive weapon, it's a little bit of a warning sign. I mean, it's not the ideal strategy. You want desirability, prestige, superior quality. You want to be that's what you really want to drive the purchases. The minute you start having a price war, it's kind of conceding that, well, we can't really compete on anything else. So I don't see it as a great sign. On the other hand, it's maturing industry like this. I mean, how much more radical improvement can there be in the iPhone? And I think once you reach that inflection point, you want to see how can I maximize profits, how can I broaden market share, and obviously price cutting is maybe a last resort, but you've got to consider it.
Jim, I share your interest in the streaming wars. We've spent a lot of time on it. We'll continue to. I mean, there obviously is a key to first mover advantage. Netflix has it. Amazon is fairly ubiquitous. Disney Plus, I think many people expect will be a success given the plethora of its content. Hard to imagine, though, that many other entrants at this point really making a great deal of, getting a lot of currency in this market, given the overall bill to the consumer is starting to mount the more services you take on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've been wondering all along about how many of these streaming services do you want to see on your TV screen. I don't want to see 100. I can tell you that. I don't want to go back to the cable world, which was utterly confusing. Even now, I find, I'm trying to remember whether something was on Netflix or Amazon Prime, and half the time I have trouble remembering. Maybe that's just me, but
no, you're not alone in that.
I've started to think that it's maybe not as many as I thought. I mean, you can fill your time, with Amazon and Netflix with a pretty robust, programming. Add some sports, and you're not looking around for something to watch. So I think it has to be some pretty compelling content to get you to add it on the screen, which I think Apple is smart to make it easy, make it cheap, but I mean really make it free. So it just is there as a bonus if you buy these things.
Jim, thanks, as always. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Jim Stewart.
The results of CNBC's third quarter CFO survey on trade tensions are out. Let's go to Frank Holland, back at headquarters now. Frank, what are you learning?
Tess says new tariffs were taking effect on billions of dollars of U.S. and Chinese goods, and trade tensions were escalating in the week before Labor Day. Our survey got the most responses from CFOs it ever has. Nearly two-thirds of global CFOs see U.S. trade policy as having a negative impact on their business. More than a third see U.S. trade policy as the single biggest external threat. 16% say China is the biggest. The dispute between the two largest economies in the world has financial decision makers worried about more than just their industry. Concerns about the global economy also rising. CFOs downgraded the current economic situation of the U.S. from improving down to stable, China from stable to declining. The Eurozone and the U.K. also seen as declining. In response, more than 60% of U.S. CFOs say their company has made plans in the event the trade war worsens. Nearly 50% say their firm has experienced higher input costs. More than a quarter say they've had to actually increase their prices to offset those tariff costs. Carl, back over to you.
A lot of information in this one. Thanks, Frank. As we go to break, take a look here at the markets. Dow's up 48, awfully close to record highs. S&P's been flirting a little bit with the flat line, up only 3 points. We're back in a moment.
CNBC Global CFO Council is...
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. Apps are not all protected, subject to availability and conditions.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Payment stocks are ringing up gains, but one stock is sitting out the rally. Find out which on tradingnation.cnbc.com. More Squawk in the Street is coming up.
So Schwab taught me about four-legged option strategies.
Daddy, you know my birthday party?
Yes.
Can we do painting?
Of course.
And can we have fireworks?
Absolutely.
And can everyone in year 4 come?
The more the merrier.
You're very relaxed about this.
At John Lewis Finance, we've crafted our premier home insurance with real care, so it provides accidental damage cover for those unexpected mishaps. We're also a Which recommended provider for Home Insurance 2019. Find out more at johnlewisfinance.com. Home insurance from John Lewis Finance. Excess and exclusions apply.
Summer wardrobe weather struggles? Introducing convertible wellies. 1 minute they're Wellington boots, the next flip-flops.
Convertible wellies never going to happen, is it? But with the new BP Me Rewards card, getting more of the summer essentials you love more often will. Search BP Me Rewards to find out more.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Khan is moving his family office to Miami. Not a big surprise. Robert Frank joins us now. He's got more. You know, Robert, it's a story I was aware of. They have about 50 to 60 employees in New York, I think, IEP. And my understanding is about half will be going down there. I actually meant to call you because, of course, so much of this also has to do not just with him getting older. He's 83, likes the warm weather, but also taxes.
Yeah, and you know, in his letter to employees, he says it wasn't taxes, but let's talk about why it also, taxes, of course, probably played a role. Now, he is New York's 4th richest person with a net worth of about $18 billion. But now Carl Icahn will likely be the richest man in Florida. He's taking his wealth and his tax dollars to Miami next spring. The 83-year-old says he's moving for the warmer weather and the slower pace, but taxes probably played a role as well. Now, those new tax rules capping state and local tax deductions to $10,000 have created a new incentive for high earners to head to Florida, which, of course, has no income or estate taxes. More than 70 financial services firms have moved to Palm Beach County alone just in the past 3 years. And even before the latest tax changes, billionaire hedge funders like David Tepper, Paul Tudor Jones, and Barry Sternlicht all packed up from the Northeast and headed south. Now, in 2017, about 64,000 people moved from New York to Florida. That is roughly in keeping with the historical averages, but tax experts say the pace probably accelerated last year and could accelerate even further in 2019. Now, Icahn converted his hedge fund into a family office in 2013. He has, as David just mentioned, about 50 employees, about half of whom are expected to also move. Now, Icahn has a home on Miami's exclusive Indian Creek Village. That's an island. He bought that house in 1997 for $7.5 million. The island has about 34 homes with a private police force, and neighbors, his new neighbors, will include Julio Iglesias, former Dolphins coach Don Shula, and hedge funder Eddie Lampert. Now, it's unclear whether he will sell the 2 penthouses that Icahn currently owns in Museum Tower in Midtown. But guys, clearly, for a guy like that with his net worth and obviously estate tax planning being important, Florida is a wise tax choice. Back to you.
I mean, he's not as worried, I think, about SALT, although for his employees it may be a factor, but it's much more about the estate tax,
Absolutely.
I would think, given New York State's, right?
Absolutely, and as we've talked about, David, you can't just move to Florida and suddenly declare yourself a Florida resident. It usually takes a couple years for the New York State tax authorities to release you, and that's a long and detailed process. So I think he's 83. Obviously, he's healthy, but he wants to plan ahead, given that the tax authorities give you a lot of trouble for several years in order to grant you that exclusion from the estate tax. That is the golden prize for older New Yorkers moving to Florida, is to get rid of that estate tax.
Yeah. Well, as one Queens guy to another, that being Carl, I'm sorry to see him go.
Yeah, we all
Robert, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let's get over to John Fort now with a look at what's coming up on Squawk Alley. Hi, John.
Hey, Contessa. Well, it's been an active end of the week
for IPOs. And we had Smile Direct yesterday. We had 10x Genomics. Well, today we've got Cloudflare. It is a cloud-based network security and optimization company. We'll see how that goes. Talk to the CEO. That's coming up on Squawk Alley.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your accounts all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. APRA or protected, subject to availability and conditions.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
Dreaming of a new kitchen? At Wix, we take care of everything, from expert design to an installation service you can trust. And there's a great price. Right now, there's up to 50% off kitchen installation. Speak to us today and get your kitchen installed for Christmas. For minimum spend, terms and exclusions, see wix.co.uk.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Dominic Chu. Markets within striking distance of their record high levels. That key level to watch is 3,027 in the S&P. That's the intraday record high hit back on July 26. 7 of the 11 sectors are within 2% of their own record highs. Today's laggard is technology and in staples as well. Meanwhile, financials and materials are leading. Now, among those stocks that are lifting that financial sector this morning, you've got SVB Financial, also Lincoln National and Prudential as well. So keep an eye on those stocks. Interest rates a key focus always, Carl, with those financials. I'll set things back down to you guys at the New York Stock Exchange.
All right, Tom, thanks for that. When we come back, you're going to see a lot of orange vests here at the NYSE today. We're going to talk to the co-founders of Cloudflare after their first trade. Dow's up 62, 10-year back to almost 186. Squawk Alley starts in a moment.
Everything you...
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Make sure you're uni-ready with our huge range of practical essentials and home-from-home comforts and get 10% off for a limited time. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Dunelm, the home of homes.
1 in 2 people believe they should check their work email on holiday. 1 in 3 believe it's okay to eat a colleague's lunch. And 1 in 14 believe it's okay to steal loo roll from work. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
To succeed in small business, you need technology that runs efficiently. When you partner with a Dell Small Business Technology Advisor, you get advice, one-on-one partnership, and tailored productivity solutions, including computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and accessories. It's how they help your small business make the most of every minute. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Online shopping can be a minefield. Often something that looks too good to be true probably is. Whether it's sold-out concert tickets, a half-price holiday, or discounted designer shoes. Don't be fooled. Always use a secure payment method and check who you're buying from is genuine. At Lloyds Bank, we believe nothing is more important than our customers' trust. And together, we can keep your money safe. Lloyds Bank, by your side.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. at Cloudflare headquarters in San Francisco. It's 11 a.m. on Wall Street, and Squawk Alley is live. Point shy of an all-time closing high on the Dow.
Yeah, we're definitely on a record close watch again today, as all the major averages are poised to end the week higher. Also waiting on this Cloudflare IPO. Right now, indicated price between $17.5 and $18.5, and that's really where we're going to start today. IPOs. WeWork choosing the NASDAQ to list its IPO, while also announcing sweeping governance changes. Questions over their coming debut swirling amid several valuation drops. And this after Smile Direct Club posted its worst first day for a unicorn so far this year. That stock, though, is up 10% this morning. You've also got Cloudflare, we just mentioned it, that's coming today, who we'll speak to later this hour. Joining us now on all of these headlines, Casey Newton of The Verge and Kevin Delaney of Quartz. Good morning to you both. Kevin, I'll start with you. I mean, I think we've got to start with WeWork. Every day there's more headlines around WeWork. Now we're getting changes, governance changes. I can't help but wonder, given the fact that there's so many red flags around the governance as it was first presented, why those changes are happening now, why they didn't happen before that first prospectus was dropped.
I mean, the easy answer is that this is Silicon Valley hubris, that this was the epitome of the founder who wanted total, complete control for life, ceding nothing to shareholders and guarantee nothing about the future of the company. And that's what the S1 that WeWork initially filed read like. Well, it turns out that investors are not on board from that, and the valuation that WeWork is potentially getting, they're hearing from investors, is a lot lower than the $47 billion valuation that SoftBank was willing to pay all along.
Casey, you're based out in Silicon Valley. What is the sense, given everything that we're seeing play out here with WeWork ahead of this roadshow that's expected next week? I mean, is it seen as sort of a tipping point in terms of what can be asked of the public market?
Yeah, I mean, Morgan, to me, this is just the most entertaining IPO story of the year. You know, everyone wants to call a Silicon Valley story. This is a New York company. This one is on y'all, right? And it's also a company that's totally in panic mode, right? And every day now they're trying to come up with something to salvage this IPO, and I don't know if they're going to do it.
Yeah, we got to own this one, Kevin. And this does not look to me like a humble company. Yeah. I mean, before, the first version was control beyond life. Yeah. The kind of revised government is just control for life. Yeah. And maybe, you know, a less of an iron grip on control, but still kind of iron. I mean, this is not a humbled WeWork here, the way I read it.
No, I would make exactly that point. And I think the other thing, investors should think about a few other things. And the primary two are the disclosures that are being made. In the S1, this business is a really opaque business. It's transactions with counterparties, with other divisions of the company. It's very highly leveraged, and I think it's really hard for investors to get their head around it, given the amount that WeWork has disclosed, putting aside the Adam Neumann issues. The other question is valuation. So there is speculation that they could go public, $30 billion or more. As I said before, SoftBank paid at a valuation of $47 billion. All of the other investors in private transactions seem to think that this company is worth $20 billion. If you look at the history of transactions, putting SoftBank aside, WeWork needs this transaction because they need money, but it's very reasonable to think that that's closer where this IPO price is.
What do you think SoftBank does here?
I don't know. It feels like a game of chicken. I think, WeWork was pushing for this IPO. They've been trying to get SoftBank to actually effectively buy them out this year. SoftBank was far down that road and then kind of backed out because of some concerns about it. And so I think the IPO goes forward. I mean, the fact is that WeWork is a business that needs access to cash. There's $3 billion they want to raise in this IPO, and another $6 billion roughly in loans and credit that is linked to a successful IPO. It's hard to see, if SoftBank's not willing to put up those $9 billion, it's hard to see WeWork backing off of this.
At what point do we start wondering how much equity SoftBank has in this period?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a question for SoftBank, and are they willing to write down the value of their investments? They're already with Uber, they're underwater. It's for those who were skeptical about some of the valuations, the euphoria around free money in Silicon Valley over the last year or two, which SoftBank is at the center at. We're actually seeing that story play out in a way that is not positive for SoftBank.
Casey, we're awaiting the first trades of Cloudflare as that company looks to go public here at the New York Stock Exchange today. It is a legit tech company that is going public, right? It's a company that helps websites protect and distribute content. That said, quite a number of the IPOs we've seen either come to market already or are currently in the pipeline may not be traditional tech companies, but certainly have sought the perception and really emphasize the role technology is playing in their business models. Is it warranted?
Yeah, look, this is a company that has solid bones. It provides a real service. On the internet today, any number of web-based services could find themselves under attack at any time for any reason. All of them are going to invest in the kind of security that Cloudflare provides. And to date, we haven't seen Cloudflare do some of the, creative accounting that some of these other really terrible IPOs have done. They've grown a little bit more slowly. They've been a little bit more prudent. So I think if you're an investor who wants to, get a piece of the tech market with a company that's been relatively responsible in how it's grown, I think you're probably going to want to give Cloudflare a good look.
And Casey, this is the type of company that, Wall Street has kind of liked this year. I mean, for all the drama around Lyft, around Uber, Smile Direct, I mean, the stock is kind of shaped like a smile so far. We'll see if it's a crooked smile or not. The IPOs overall have done pretty well, really well this year, and this is the type of company, despite the fact that it's not profitable, that people have sort of embraced.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. There's a lot of reasons to believe that Cloudflare can become profitable because it doesn't have to, invest tens of billions of dollars in finding its market, right? It builds a good service today, and now it has to figure out how to get that service into the hands of more customers and, sort of increase its profitability. So I can at least see a clear path there for Cloudflare where I can't see it for some of these other IPOs.
Kevin, quickly.
And you're, John, I think what you're referring to is Zoom is one of the companies, the video conference company, which was profitable, went public, the market liked it. Like, it's worth noting that the company that the market really liked was Beyond Meat, which was the company that was not in the tech business at all. And
Agritech.
so we're looking at a constrained set of companies, but actually looking outside of them, you're seeing companies that investors are even more eager for.
You're making it sound like we've tested investors' limits on business models, on opacity, on governance, on ownership structures, right?
On valuation. I think that's totally fair. We've had what these effectively are for a lot of these companies are down rounds. They raise money in the private markets. They've stayed private longer than companies traditionally, and they had a big pool of cash sloshing around that gave them very rich valuations. These IPOs are down rounds for these companies and probably reflect the reality better than what the private investors are willing to pay.
All right, Kevin, Casey, thanks for joining us today. And John, crooked smile. You know it's going to be a big show when you start the hour with a dad joke.
All day, Morgan. All day. Still to come here on Squawk Alley, FTC Commissioner Rohit Chopra joins us exclusively at the bottom of the hour, with the agency reportedly planning an investigation into Amazon. We will ask him about that in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Whoa! Shell saltwater supercars. They look fun.
Science-fueled fun, actually, Dad. Toy cars that run on salt water.
Fuel the family fun with Shell Saltwater Supercars. Fill up with £30 or more and you'll qualify to buy a car from just $3.99.
I want one.
Okay, Dad.
Fill up on fun with Saltwater Supercars at Shell. Participating sites, conditions apply. See shell.co.uk/saltwater supercars for details.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Squawk Alley. Apple is trading lower. It's weighing on the Dow right now. And Goldman Sachs is one of the reasons, cutting their price target on Apple this morning. Now the lowest on the street at $165 a share. Josh Lipton is in San Francisco with all the details. Josh.
So, Morgan, a big call here from a big analyst. Goldman's Rod Hall just slashed his EPS forecast for the iPhone maker. His concern, Apple TV Plus. Remember, Apple's going to include 1 year of the streaming service with new hardware purchases. Now, Bernstein's Tony Sacconaghi called that bundling strategy extremely clever, saying that Apple TV Plus could now reach 200 million Apple customers in its first year. But Hall is concerned that free trial is going to impact the company's bottom line, specifically that Apple's method of accounting for this bundle moves revenue from hardware to services. And that, he says, isn't good news for hardware average selling prices and margins in high sales quarters, like that critical holiday quarter coming up. Hall says we could see Apple's EPS hit by 16% in its Q1 due to this accounting method. Though importantly, he says cash flow should be unchanged. But as you mentioned, Hall did cut his price target from 187 to 165. And that is the lowest of the major Wall Street banks and the fifth lowest of all analysts covering Apple. Apple shares lower this morning. Still, that stock has soared this year, skyrocketing up nearly 40% and surging more than 50% from its low back in early January. Guys, back to you.
Yep. Rod Hall continues to frustrate those Apple longs, Josh. No doubt about that. Our Josh Lipton. When we come back, mega contracts, rising ratings, and the big business of the NFL. Plus, will Antonio Brown be allowed to play on Sunday? NFL super agent Drew Rosenhaus is going to join us on the other side of this break with the Dow up 83 now.
Welcome to the Hall of Allergies. Today At Romans, you can rent your next home from just £36, plus your first month's rent. No deposit.
No problem.
Romans, your trusted local property experts at romans.co.uk. Conditions and monthly fee apply.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. Apps are not all protected, subject to availability and conditions.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
Week 2 of the NFL's 100th season off to a pretty strong start. Viewership of last week's games up 5% year on year, including a 43% spike in digital streaming. One big storyline of Week 2, of course, is will All-Pro wide receiver Antonio Brown, released by the Raiders last week, been practicing with his new team, the Patriots, actually be allowed to play on Sunday. Joining us to discuss is Brown's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, owner of Rosenhaus Sports. Drew, it's good to see you again. Good morning.
Good to be back. Good morning.
What a week it's been. I'm not going to ask you specifically about the civil case. I know you can't really comment, but what do Belichick and Kraft do here?
Well, that's a better question for them. I hope that they will continue to support Antonio and follow through on the great promise of this relationship and let the civil case play itself out. The important thing to keep in mind is that this is a civil case. It's not criminal. And our hope is that Antonio will be able to play while the civil case is getting resolved, which could take months, if not longer.
Can you give me a tick-tock of just how this all went down, this transition from the Raiders to Foxborough? I mean, what has your last couple weeks been like?
Well, we obviously, Antonio was released on Saturday. We got word Saturday morning that he would be released by the Raiders. Shortly after it became official at 4 o'clock, I was contacted by multiple teams, not just the Patriots, but after negotiating with multiple teams, we reached an agreement with the Patriots, which was ultimately formalized on Monday. And Antonio's been practicing with the team, and we hope he'll play on Sunday in his hometown of Miami against the Dolphins.
Drew, I've read the lawsuit, the civil suit with the rape allegations. It is sobering. You said you believe Antonio Brown. My question is about image, because Antonio also put out this video toward the end of the Raiders portion of this saga that was very highly produced, kind of telling his side of the story in a way through a phone call. What's the role that image and social media is playing both to the players' benefit and their detriment in this era?
Well, I think right now what Antonio is focused on is having a great season for the Patriots and taking it one day at a time. I believe in talking to him every day. His focus is on being the best teammate, best player, best citizen that he can be for the Patriots. That's where his focus is right now.
Drew, I want to shift gears a little bit. ESPN's president came out yesterday and said that he expects competition from Silicon Valley when the NFL's television contracts come up for renewal. I realize that tech companies have already started to get more involved in some of these streaming rights, but is that your expectation as well? And what does it mean not only for the NFL, but also for players and their ability to negotiate contracts in the coming years?
Well, I mean, the TV ratings are so unbelievably high, and streaming video is so huge right now with Disney jumping in it and Apple to compete with Netflix and everybody else that's doing it. Why not get involved in the NFL? It's the most valuable commodity that network TV has right now. Why not take that away from them too? I mean, it should be an absolute bidding war. If I'm the networks, they've got to be prepared to do a record TV contract if they have any hopes of keeping the rights to the NFL, which I'm sure the NFL is in many ways going to continue to have great balance between network TV and streaming video. Of course, with Amazon and Yahoo and all the other entities that they've done business with, that's just going to continue to expand. It's exciting. As an agent representing players, it's going to be great for the NFL, great for the players. It's going to increase the collective bargaining agreement, increase the salary cap. The NFL is going to benefit, fans are going to benefit, players are going to benefit. It's a win-win, and it's nice to see the ratings going up.
Yes. Finally, Drew, really quick, Jerry Jones was down here a couple of weeks ago and argued that if you were to get a real big streaming bid out of big tech, that the value of franchises like his could be up 50%. I mean, what's realistic in that view?
I'm not going to disagree with Jerry Jones on that. I think he's right. I think this is the next avenue for the NFL. The NFL has been always one step ahead. They're always looking for the next opportunity to increase their value. Streaming, it's the way to go. I think they're going to capitalize on that, and it's going to be a huge part of increasing NFL franchises, and I believe the NFL's value is going to go up exponentially.
Drew, it's just nice to have football back. I know you know how that feels, and a lot of our viewers do too. Thanks for coming on. Always good to see you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Drew Rosenhaus.
And online prescription delivery service Capsule announcing a fresh $200 million funding round this morning. Joining us now to discuss, Capsule CEO and founder Eric Kanarawala. Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
So you've been in New York, based here for your entire existence up to this point. This $200 million is going to help you expand. Tell me where you see your advantage being when Amazon's trying to push in with PillPack, but running into some issues, right? Getting that patient information in a consistent way. What can you do?
Yeah, so we started Capsule 3 years ago, and we have built the simplest, best, easiest to use experience for consumers and doctors to get their medication and manage them on an ongoing basis. We built an app that lets you have price transparency. You can see what your copays are, what are the side effects, why did my doctor prescribe this. You can chat or text with a pharmacist to get real-time advice on any of these things, and then we deliver it to your house, your office in 2 hours, all through the 5 boroughs. Over the last 3 years, the business has grown exponentially, and the thing that I'm the most proud of, and I think the thing that's most important, is how consumers are reacting to what we've built. So if you go into the App Store, there are 3,000 perfect App Store reviews, there are hundreds of Google reviews, and people are talking about their pharmacy in a way that you would think is completely bizarre. People are talking about Capsule love is true love. We had a woman who tweeted out saying, Capsule, will you walk me down the aisle at my wedding? And I think what we've done is captured this incredible moment in healthcare where everything is shifting to the consumer. People are so frustrated about being vulnerable with large healthcare institutions, and Capsule is giving people literally the power of their healthcare back in their hands.
Talk to me about the infrastructure. I mean, it seems like magic on the consumer side, but it's not. Talk to me about the infrastructure that you've got to build up to expand into a new city, into a new state, in terms of doctors or pharmacies that you're working with, the people that you've got to do deals with.
The experience is magical, and in pharmacy, to do something magical, it's really hard. And so we have a team of 300 people. We've built out this incredibly robust proprietary technology platform. And what we're doing now across the country is building out the physical infrastructure that will let us serve consumers everywhere from, we like to call it internally, Manhattan to Manhattan Beach. But this is a problem every American has, and we're laser focused on bringing what we've built.
So what is that physical infrastructure?
It is the warehouses and the retail pharmacies, really not warehouses, but the retail pharmacies in every market in America. And so people will be able to walk into our pharmacies if that's how they want to interact with the pharmacy. They'll be able to get delivery that they can schedule on our app. It's a completely full-service experience to meet people where they are, because that's the most important thing, is to let consumers engage with their healthcare how they want to do it, not to force consumers to engage with how the system works today.
We have been hearing for years about the opportunity for tech disruption in healthcare and how much that disruption is needed, and certainly that's what you're targeting with your company. And yet, in some ways, it kind of feels like Groundhog's Day, because healthcare inflation still a runaway train in many ways. You can look at Obamacare and what happened there. You can look at what's going on under this administration, for all the talk of changing healthcare in the country and how little has actually taken place. You can look to the Democratic presidential debate that happened last night. Now you've got these proposals for Medicare for all. Is there anything you're hearing, seeing, or anything you would propose that could actually get at changing the healthcare system in this country in a meaningful way?
The number one most important thing that has not happened over the last 50 or 100 years since healthcare has evolved here is focusing on the consumer. That's the number one thing, is what's right for the consumer. In every other part of your life, my life, things are easy. It's easy to get a cab to come show up. It's easy to manage my groceries. It's easy to get a mattress or razors or eyewear. Why is it so hard to manage the most important thing in my life, which is my healthcare?
Why, though? Why is it so hard?
Because
is it the regulations?
It's because you haven't had a company or a set of people to build a team and a culture that's consumer first. And that's what we do at Capsule. Every day we wake up and we say, how do we serve the consumer? How do I make your life easier? How do I look after you so you have the peace of mind that comes from knowing there's somebody in the background making sure you never run out of medication. There's somebody in the background that knows if you have a question, you can send a text between your sets so that you're not on the phone managing complex insurance things. It's the modern way to do something, and it takes an incredible team to be able to do that, drawing from a lot of different places. So we've built teams of experts from everywhere from really successful e-commerce companies like Jet to healthcare companies like Pfizer. We've got a team of pharmacists, but you got to put everything together in a really unique way to build something novel.
All right. It is a tough business, and we will certainly be eager to watch how you build it. Eric, thanks.
Thank you.
Dow's up 67. Let's get a news update this morning from Sue Herrera. Morning, Sue.
Good morning, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. The brother of Olympic gold medalist Simone Biles made his first court appearance this morning in connection to a triple murder in Cleveland. Tevin Biles Thomas pleading not guilty to all charges. He is due back in court for a pretrial hearing next week. Actress Felicity Huffman is returning to court later today to be sentenced for her role in a sweeping college admissions bribery scandal. Prosecutors recommending a month in prison plus a $20,000 fine. Her lawyers say she should get a year of probation, 250 hours of community service, and a $20,000 fine. An 80-foot carpet saved from the Notre Dame fire is going on public display in Paris. It was woven between 1825 and 1833 for the cathedral's choir. It did sustain some damage, and now it is waiting restoration. And singer Eddie Money has died. His hit songs included 2 Tickets to Paradise and Baby Hold On. Variety reporting the death, citing a statement from his family that he passed away this morning. He announced in August that he had esophageal cancer. Eddie Money was 70 years old. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Back downtown to Squawk Alley. Morgan, I'll send it back to you.
Sue Herrera, thank you. When we return, the world's first ever ambassador to Silicon Valley. He joins us on his mission after the break. Dow's up 69 points. We're back in a minute.
The Drive. We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today. You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm home. Hi, Mum. Wow, what's that?
Saltwater supercars from Shell. Toy cars that run on salt water.
Science-fueled family fun. Fill up with £30 or more and you'll qualify to buy a car from just $3.99.
Track ready.
Check.
Saltwater ready.
Check.
Go!
Fill up on fun with saltwater supercars at Shell. Participating sites, conditions apply. See shell.co.uk/saltwater supercars for details.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things, strings, strings, strings and things, strings, strings, strings and things, strings and
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
strings and things.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Welcome back to Squawk Alley. Denmark appointing the world's first ever tech ambassador. It's a position designed to work within and approach Silicon Valley as if it were its own global superpower. Ambassador Casper Kling joins us now from San Francisco. Ambassador, thanks for being with us today. You know, when we talk about diplomacy, it's usually interaction with sovereign governments, not with corporations. So I guess to start, if you could just lay out specifically what your role as an ambassador to Silicon Valley is and how you measure success.
Well, it's basically a recognition that the world today is not only about doing business with other countries or with international organizations. It's also about acknowledging that the big technology companies, some of them in the vicinity of where I'm sitting right now, but also in China, that they're becoming very influential actors to you and me as individuals, but also over international relations. So what I do and what my team is doing is more or less the same as embassies are doing all over the world. The only difference is that we deal primarily with the executives in some of the big tech companies and try and influence the direction that their companies are taking and their platforms are having on the world affairs.
I know this is a role that was carved out, I guess, about 2 years ago by Denmark. What has the reception been of tech companies to you in Silicon Valley and in terms of interaction? And how has that changed, especially lately, given the fact that we do see so much more scrutiny of the biggest companies?
You know, the honest answer to that question, it's been a mixed experience. Some of the companies have been very forward-leaning. They've recognized that it makes sense to have a multi-stakeholder approach where the companies are also talking to governments or to civil society. Then we've had, a lot of companies being curious and a little bit skeptical on, what is this about? Is this about regulation or is it about, commercial opportunities? But when we've had the opportunity to say that, this is a political function, it's about trying to find out how we work closer together and making sure that technology will not be undermining democracy, that it will not be threatening human rights, then they've been very forward-leaning. And then, to be very frank, we've also had a smaller group of companies that have been much more reluctant and to some extent trying to keep us far away from the headquarters. I think because of not particularly wanting to assume a responsibility over some of the technologies that they bring about. So it's been a mixed experience, but I think today we are in a very different spot than we were a couple of years ago. We have quite good relations with most of the tech companies, not only here in Silicon Valley, but also in China, in Europe, the Middle East, etc. And some of the scandals we've seen, Cambridge Analytica being one of the most prominent ones, never let a good crisis go to waste. It's been good to use those to get the dialogue going.
Casper, are you speaking for Denmark or are you speaking for Danish companies when you're out there in Silicon Valley? And what have you accomplished? What would you say is your top couple of accomplishments so far?
Yeah, no, I don't speak on behalf of Danish companies. This is a foreign ministry post, and I'm a career diplomat, and I came directly to this job from being bilateral ambassador to Indonesia. So it's a political function, and the kind of relationships and the kind of conversations we have with the big technology companies, that really depends on what Danish authorities wants us to bring forward. And that has to do with everything from terrorism, radicalization, illegal content on the big platforms to some of the issues we raised lately, the transcription of recordings on Siri and Google devices. So it is a traditional ambassadorial role where you basically represent the interest, the national interest, in my case, of Denmark. Now that said, it goes without saying that we are a European Union member country, so we've also had a function to try and explain what is Europe doing, also on the regulatory front, and how does that relate to the technology industry here in the U.S.
That was my next question. I'm wondering, are you hearing any complaints in the Valley there that the EU is unfairly targeting U.S. big tech and somehow trying to subsidize their own innovation with our funds?
Oh, yes. I mean, if I'd received $1 every time we got a complaint about what Europe is doing, I would have been a very wealthy man, not a civil servant anymore. But what I would say is that I think, there's a lot of misconception, a lot of misunderstandings of what Europe is trying to do. And some of the companies have come forward to say, this is anti-American. We're just trying to target the U.S. companies, for example, with this general data protection regulation, which stipulates that your personal data is your personal data that cannot be misused by third parties. So I think we've had an important role in also translating what is happening in Europe. But at the end of the day, and that is something which is essential to me and to Denmark, this is also about keeping together also across the Atlantic. We have companies here that are products of the same values as we have in Europe. We have to make sure that we collaborate also between the private sector and governments, because long term there are some much bigger issues at stake, which is about whether technology will be used for surveillance, for control, for totalitarian approaches, or whether democracy will be defended also by the new platform. So the transatlantic issue is very close to what we do and what my team is doing.
Yeah. Well, Casper Kling, thank you for joining us today, the world's first ever tech ambassador.
Maybe the United States should consider having an ambassador in Silicon Valley. Seems like it might be a good idea.
From Washington, just take the red eye.
Might solve a lot of problems.
FTC Commissioner Rohit Chopra is going to join us exclusively on the other side of this break as we continue to talk about regulation and tech. As the S&Ps come in a little bit, up 2 points.
Delivering Alpha, the most important investor summit 9 years running. Strategy from leading alpha generators. Direct access to policymakers and government leaders. On September 19th, see who's calling the shots now. Go to deliveringalpha.com to attend this year's blockbuster event.
You will come away with ideas that you can put to work immediately.
Plus, special guest Vice President Mike Pence talks economy and trade war impact. Reserve your spot now at deliveringalpha.com.
I heard you guys have Workday now.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did you know Carphone Warehouse does business? That's why we understand how hard it is to go from this to this. But when you switch to the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone with O2, you don't have to. It's packed with features to help you stay on track on the move. So, if you want to end your summer feeling like this and not this, switch to Save Today with O2 and get the Samsung Galaxy S10 with 60 gigabytes of data for only £43 per month. Visit your nearest store or go online at business.carphonewarehouse.com/switch and save.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things. Strings and things and strings and things. Strings and things. Strings and things.
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
Up at halftime at noon, new highs. They are on the horizon. Not there yet, but we can see them. So what is your next move and what should you buy or sell right now? We're going to find out. Tech's big threat. The top sector holding up the market under fire from lawmakers. We're going to trade Facebook, Amazon, and Alphabet. And Google, or Goldman rather, taking a bite out of Apple, slashing its price target. It is now one of the lowest on the street. We're going to debate that note and whether or not you should dump Apple if you own it or buy it on the weakness. That's all coming up at the halftime report at the top of the hour. Carl, I will send it back to you.
All right, Sully, thanks. On that very topic, the tech lash out of D.C. continues to ramp up today. The House Judiciary Antitrust Subcommittee requesting some internal records from Apple, Facebook, and Google after a report earlier this week that the FTC is planning its own antitrust probe into Amazon. Joining us exclusively today from Washington is FTC Commissioner Rohit Chopra, who had dissented against the FTC's Facebook and YouTube fines, arguing that they did not go far enough. Mr. Commissioner, good to have you back. Welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Is this about the dollar amount on Google? Because we wondered at the time why it seemed to be such a pittance relative to their revenue.
Well, look, we're not going to solve some of these problems just by small-time fines that aren't going to change the underlying business model of these firms. We actually have to take a hard look about whether these behemoths are killing off innovation and competition. If we look back to history, we see that antitrust action has incubated so much new economic activity, and that's our task right now, to get to the bottom of what we can do to fix some of these problems.
Well, then why did the commission argue so forcefully that it was some kind of record-setting fine?
Well, look, you're always going to see enforcers, beat their chests about big fines. But I think more and more of us across the country, including 50 state attorneys general, are now wondering, how do we actually fix the core problems for our economy when it comes to this sector?
Commissioner, with all of these companies under the microscope at once, Microsoft not one of them.
Aging Dr. Freud.
Right? Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon, a lot of different business models in there, different issues, whether you're talking about data, whether you're talking about advertising, app stores. Does it weaken the case to changing any particular one that they're all in the frying pan at once?
Well, you're right. We've got to actually look at the whole thing comprehensively. And this is an all-hands-on-deck moment. If we rewind 20 years ago, there was a risk that Microsoft was going to own the internet. And you're right, now it's not just one firm. There are several firms that are raising lots of questions, and we've got to really focus on taking a comprehensive look and taking action where we need to.
Commissioner, just to confirm, is the FTC formally actually investigating Amazon now?
Well, I'm not going to comment on any individual investigation. The companies can disclose what they're being investigated on or if not. But look, the bottom line is that there are some serious questions about whether firms, some of the biggest firms in the world, are suppressing competition, or are they playing fair? And we have to act if we see that they're breaking the law.
I realize we're talking about a number of different potential companies, a number of different potential businesses within those companies, and that the FTC is itself looking to clarify its power to regulate big tech right now. But based on the laws that are actually on the books, how much power does the FTC actually have to take an antitrust tact on these different names and rein in what could be perceived as too much power in the marketplace?
A lot. Our antitrust laws are enforced by the FTC, the states, the Department of Justice. And when those investigations conclude that there is anti-competitive conduct, the courts can award divestitures. They can award significant remedies that really make sure that those business models are not choking off competition and innovation.
Commissioner, how do you handle the challenge that there are so many companies in the crosshairs, and you're talking antitrust? So you got Amazon now jumping into the advertising market with Facebook and with Google. Is that anti-competitive, or is it pro-competitive that they're doing that? You've got Google and Apple and Amazon all in this streaming media business. That would seem to suggest competition, especially when you've got Hollywood cleaning up, selling content to them. Does that complicate things?
I think maybe you're asking the wrong question. I think the question is can new firms actually get in the game, or are we just going to depend on 3 or 4 firms to fight it out with each other? The best part of the U.S. economy is when new ideas actually can enter and can challenge that dominance. when I talk to investors, a lot of the smartest investors are actually clamoring for some action here. When you talk to venture capital, they worry. We can't really fund some of the best ideas because we think it will just be stomped out by one of the big guys. We want to live in a country where the ideas can challenge that dominance and unseat it. And I think there's many people worrying about whether the structure of today's marketplace facilitates that.
Well, Commissioner, we're about to be interrupted by the first trade of Cloudflare, which has an indication 18 to 1850. Obviously, it's been a busy year so far for IPOs. I mean, there's an argument to be made that a lot of companies that have innovated and incubated and are now coming to market are the essence of new ideas, the ones that you think are being suppressed by the giants.
Well, it is great news when more firms are able to raise capital and more firms are able to challenge. But here's a distinction we got to make sometimes. A lot of firms are actually starting up purely for the purpose of hoping to exit not to the public markets, but to be acquired by one of those large firms. And so that means a lot of the innovation may be feature-oriented rather than fundamentally going after the overall architecture of the business model. I always look at Microsoft from 20 years ago. They could have owned the entire internet. And now they set the stage, and antitrust actions set the stage for many of these new firms, Google, Facebook, Amazon. I'm not sure any of them would exist today had regulators not acted. So yes, there are examples of people getting in the game, but I want to see a lot more. And I think everyone should want that on the street as well.
Commissioner, the fact that the FTC has some probes going on right now, you have the DOJ investigating as well, the state attorneys general, which you mentioned just before, and then even just today with lawmakers, House Antitrust Panel seeking internal records from Amazon, Apple, Google, and Facebook. How are all of these different agencies and entities working together?
Well, one thing...
Commissioner, as soon as I asked you that question, we got our first, it looks like we're getting our first trade on Cloudflare here as it goes public here at the New York Stock Exchange. So we're just going to interrupt real quick to take a look at that. It's up 20% right now, trading at about $18.15 a share. That's after it priced above the range last night at $15 a share. So that's Cloudflare, the latest tech company to go public here today at the New York Stock Exchange. But Commissioner, back to my question. How are all of the different agencies and lawmakers working together, if at all, right now?
Well, I think there's been a consensus that this sector has essentially been subject to extremely lax oversight over the past decade, and particularly in recent years. So I see the all-hands-on-deck approach as a positive development. I am in constant communication with attorneys general across the country, and I am glad that this is bipartisan. I am glad the investigations from Capitol Hill are bipartisan, because ultimately this is going to be about how we can use all of our resources to get to the bottom of some of these problems in our economy and fix them. It bugs the hell out of me that we see so much reduction in investment in sectors where some of these firms dominate. And that's just not a country or an economy that we should want to live in. Yes, there's a lot of actors involved, but that means that there's going to be more resources to be analytical and to find where there might be violations and be smart about those remedies.
Conversation we'll continue to have, hopefully with your help, Mr. Commissioner. Thanks for the time today. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Rory Chopra, FTC Commissioner.
And after the break, Cloudflare has made its debut right behind us here at the New York Stock Exchange. The stock is now up 24% from its offering price, $18.70. Both the CEO and Chief Operating Officer, co-founders, they join us right here at Post 9 next. Stay with us.
Family Taco Night is a heartburn night you can plan for. Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nation, and P-Money. MCing from Harry Pinero and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. APRA and ATOL protected, subject to availability and conditions.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Rescue stressed, irritated skin with Estee Lauder's newest innovation, Advanced Night Repair Intense Reset Concentrate. Rescue and reset the look of skin with SOS technology. Skin feels instantly calmed, soothed and strengthened, revealing a more radiant, smooth and rested look. Face life head on with Estee Lauder's new Advanced Night Repair Intense Reset Concentrate. Why not try it for yourself? Head to your nearest Estee Lauder counter for a free SOS mini facial.
Well, Cloudflare opening for trading just moments ago. The stock is now up better than 25%, right around $19 a share. And joining us now in a First on CNBC interview, the company's co-founder, CEO Matthew Prince, and COO Michelle Zetlin, both here at Post 9. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So there's been a lot of volatility in the markets these days, but I mean, we are pretty much near all-time highs as well. Was there any trepidation about coming public in this environment or no?
You know, I think that we've built a company for the long term, and we're really proud of the mission at Cloudflare. And I think when a company gets to a certain scale and a certain size, my father, who's here somewhere, was a stockbroker, and I remember being with him talking about and watching, the opening bell of so many companies over the years. And when you get to that size and that scale, you owe it to your employees, to your investors, and to the investing public as a whole to run the company as if it's a public company. And if you're going to do that, you might as well be a public company. And so I think that markets go up and markets go down, but our goal is to build an enduring and lasting value for our customers and our shareholders.
Michelle, what's the difference being an enterprise company in this cloud-driven environment where you've got AWS, you've got Azure, you've got Google all in the mix, and they're a fundamental part of the enterprise ecosystem now. You're sort of playing in that. How is that different from what we've seen in the past?
When Matthew and I and Lee started this company, we saw this big shift for hardware, on-premise hardware boxes to the cloud. And we took that idea, and every day we show up to execute on that. And along the way, we have a lot of customers joining in. And we have this vision of Cloudflare as the service that customers are choosing to help make sure that their internet applications are fast, that they're safe, and that they're reliable around the world. And so having other players in the market is great, but we work alongside all of those, and companies use us together, and I think that we're just getting started.
So just to dig into that a little bit more, then how would you assess the competitive landscape? Because when you talk about something like cybersecurity, I mean, there are quite a number of names out there, including names that have been going public, in addition to Cloudflare this year.
Yes, definitely. Well, cybersecurity is a big field. It turns out there's lots of ways to be secure. Cloudflare helps secure at the network layer, and so every every day we stop 44 billion with a B cyber attacks on behalf of our customers. And so we are the first line of defense that protects all the 20 million internet properties using Cloudflare around the world. And so we work with an additional to a lot of these other types of services, but it's a really broad field. And if a business is looking to be secure online, first line of defense, Cloudflare is the choice for them.
Given how hot the space is, and John mentions the big players, can you talk about the calculus of whether to go public or say yes to what I'm assuming were several offers to be absorbed by a larger player? When did you have to make that call?
I think that we're building Cloudflare to be an enduring company, and we want to continue to build it. And I think a lot of the strength that we have is in the independence that we have. What we hear from CTOs and CIOs that are our customers is that they want to make sure that they have a choice between the different cloud providers. And Cloudflare provides that neutral platform that lets you connect together your on-premise infrastructure, any of the SaaS vendors you're using from companies we really admire like Salesforce and Workday, in addition to the big cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft Azure. Microsoft and Google have been longtime investors in Cloudflare. They've been great partners with us, and we've been able to go to market with them. And I think that ecosystem actually benefits any company that is using it to get the scale, efficiency, and enhanced security that we're able to provide.
You've got gender parity in your founding team. You've also got what looks like gender parity with the employees that you've got here, which I'm not used to seeing with enterprise companies, not at IPO. How did you do it?
I mean, the companies that have the most diverse set of people working for them are the ones that win over the long term. What we're really proud of is the mission at Cloudflare, where we're helping build a better internet, and everyone comes to work every day at Cloudflare doing that. And I think one of the things that probably will get ignored by some of the investors, but a statistic that we think is the important statistic for building an enduring company for the long term, is we hire less than 1% of applicants who apply to work at Cloudflare, and 90% of the people that we extend offers to actually accept those offers. And so that has given us the ability to get great men and women to work at the company, get great people from around the world to work at the company. And I think over time, the people that are able to hire the best and the brightest are able to build the best products and are going to win over that long term.
And I'll just say that I've had the luckiest co-founders in the world, Matthew and Lee. They just always treated me like Michelle. Our initial investors always treated me just like Michelle. And the best part of my job are the people I get to work with. And I hope that other companies look at us and say, wow, they can build a diverse team and build a great company, so can we. And so I hope this is the start of many, the first of many.
I want to shift gears for a moment because Cloudflare came into media focus back in August after the fatal shootings that happened, and the company decided to terminate the account of 8chan. What has been the response to that? And I guess how does it speak to a broader policy that you've implemented, if you have, around the customers you work with?
I think when we started, we realized that what we were competing with was the on-premise hardware of the world, the Ciscos and F5s and Riverbeds. And the challenge is, on any given day, there's a whole bunch of really horrible content that flows through a Cisco router. And yet Cisco, probably we would think is strange if they were making determinations on whether content was good and bad. And so we've always been reticent to make those content decisions. But every once in a while, you do get platforms that are truly designed from the beginning to be terrible, terrible places. And when that happens, I think that the responsibility of tech companies is to step up. And so while we, I think, are in a different position than a Facebook or a YouTube, over time, we want to make sure that the internet is a better place, and that's our mission.
Matthew, Michelle, thanks. Cloudflare now up about 27%.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get to Sully in the half.
Carl, Morgan, and John, thank you all very much. Have a great weekend, and welcome to the Halftime Report, everybody. I am Brian, once again in for Scott Wapner. It is Friday the 13th, but you're not running scared. Stocks, they're closing in on record highs, but should you really trust this run? Have we been here before? It is 12 noon, and this is the Halftime Report.
Stocks edging closer to record highs. What now? And how much has a trade deal been priced into this market? Your next money move is straight ahead. Tech under fire. Lawmakers taking aim at Facebook, Amazon, Alphabet, and Apple. The risks hanging over them and the tech trade.
Goldman also taking a big bite out of Apple, slashing its price target on the stock by 25%. It's our call of the day. The investment committee is ready to go. Halftime report starts right now.
And that is a lot to get in the show, but we're going to do our best for you to make sure that it happens. It is good to have you with us on this Friday. Your investment committee today, Joe Terranova, Josh Brown, John Nigerian, Rob Sechin of UBS Private Wealth Management, and I'm told one of Forbes' top 100 financial advisors. Rob, that's good.
Bang.
And also Shannon Sakocha, Chief Investment Officer at Boston Private Wealth. Shannon, welcome. Good to see you on this Friday as well. All right, so here's your setup. The bulls marching toward record highs. The Dow now looking at its longest winning streak since May of 2018. If we end up on the Dow today higher, it'll be 8 straight days. The S&P, I think it's 5 straight days, off about 0.5% from record highs. Shannon, I know no professionals watch the Dow. I get it. We can hear that all the time. But it is a thing. It's something that appears on general news, right? The USA Today or the nightly news on NBC. It will pop up when we hit these numbers. Does a record high make any difference from a market psychology or investable perspective?
Well, I think it's important, and I do think that there is some element of, especially in the investing public, that a record high means something. However, I think the other thing that we have to put in perspective is that we continue to talk about all of the volatility, quote unquote, that we've experienced over the last couple of months. And when you look at where we are from how much we've declined from those previous highs, you have to put in perspective that we really haven't had significant drops here. And the equity market moves higher over time. So we would expect that over the course of this cycle, if we continue to see solid, positive economic growth, and there remains really no other place to go with your funds, that the equity market would continue to move higher, at least in the near term.
I guess, Joe, let me ask it in a more simple way. Does buying beget buying, if you know what I mean? Does the market run shows that we talk about 6, 7 days? Does it bring new people, new money into the market?
I don't know that it brings new money into the market. I think it brings money that has been in the market and it repositions it in a different shape or form that leads the S&P to move higher. I think a lot of the money that I'm talking about that's been kind of reshaped was hiding out in other places like taxable fixed income, like the bond proxies. So I think that's basically what you're seeing right now. Listen, I think, Brian, overall, you have to be very happy if you're an investor where the market is right now. As you know, we
want it to go up, not 13th. Down. So yes,
Brian, the market's up 20%.
Should you be happy structurally with the way the market is performing?
How could any sane person argue that they would not be?
Well, there's your first problem.
We're sitting right below all-time highs for the S&P. If the year was to close today, and we were to close in the S&P above 3,000, I think we'd all be very happy with that as investors.
But what I mean, Josh, by that is that it's not just 5 stocks. It's not the FANG stocks plus 1 or 2 others that are driving this market higher. It seems like we've been talking about it all week, that there is a more, whether it's short covering or not, we have seen these dogs participate. Is that a positive?
Yeah, so I think that's a point that we've made. And then I want to add to that. There have been 219 new record all-time highs since the market bottomed now almost a little bit more than a decade ago in March of 2009. So if every time we made one of those 219 new highs, by the way, I think soon to be 220, we said, all right, it's a new all-time high, is now the time to sell, it would have been the wrong decision. We're making new highs in March of 2013. So I think it's really important to not take the new high as a signal to either, okay, now you should really buy or now you should really sell. I also think we had this parabolic move higher in quote-unquote safety trade that is now looking increasingly clownish. Let's take a look at, first of all, the TLT, which is now 7.6% below its parabolic move top, which was about 2 weeks ago. Let's go ahead and take a look at the zero coupon bond ETF, ZROZ. This is incredible, down 12%. This is a pure duration bet. And then finally, look at silver, SLV. Which I think is down about 9 or 9.5% from that parabolic spike higher. This was supposed to be the safe money. And so I think the lesson here is you can get momentum in anything, even things that are supposed to be for safety, like treasuries, like gold and silver. But this market has been designed to frustrate everyone. And so just when you think you have the right answer, and it's something like gold or silver or long-term treasuries, you get these really sharp reversals. And then you have to decide what you want to do with them. And it's not always an easy decision.
So, I mean, I think we're all digesting markets being at all-time highs, stock markets being very near all-time highs, bond markets coming off their recent highs. And it's a very tough time to figure out what to do. But when you look at it, S&P's up 20%. It's at or above our target. We've gotten most of the juice out of the orange, at least we think. And so we're de-risking a bit, and we're de-risking more internationally where there's more exposure to trade, partly because we don't think markets are pricing in all the volatility we're going to see.
You're advising clients to get out of Asian equity assets?
Well, emerging markets and Eurozone assets and those that are more tied to trade. And even within the U.S., we're doing some of those same trades because we do think as a baseline that the trade environment that Trump has outlined, we are going to escalate to that, and markets are not prepared for that, and they're also pricing in most of the Fed dovishness. So when you look at that mosaic, I think we're using it as an opportunity to go from our overweight equities all year to being slightly underweight, and that underweight is reflected in the areas that are eye of the storm assets as it relates to trade.
I haven't really changed my outlook at all, Brian.
Thanks for coming, John.
Thank you.
So, Joe, back to you.
There you go.
I mean,
the fact that we're right up here again against highs, I'm just as bullish as I was when I decried some of the folks that were telling people to get out of the market just 2 weeks ago, when, as Josh said, when the 10-year was down there basically at $1.50, and everybody's screaming for zero on the 10-year.
Yeah, and they're talking about the Burl Ives trade, buy silver and gold.
Let's all get out of all this stuff.
Who said Burl Ives trade?
Well, I said that I think someone has stolen it. Yeah,
stolen it. Okay, so
Silver
you said
and
it as a joke, but somebody said it seriously.
Well,
if I was
it's
on
a new,
set that day,
it's a
I
new
would've lit 'em
ETF,
up.
Josh. It's BURL.
Not
It's
happening.
actually. I'm kidding. But it's not a bad idea. Let's start it, Joe. You should launch an ETF called Burl
What
Ives.
John's talking about is how long do you stay on the train, and he thinks you
that's
ride
it, right?
Ride it a little more, and I think
Not just a little more,
maybe a lot more. But hold on, let me finish my thought on that topic.
Okay.
In a world of 80% negative interest rates and very low interest rates in the U.S., what is the right multiple that you should have on stocks? And arguably, it should be higher. And I think once we get through this intermediate term, what could be a hiccup around trade, and you start to dance around a stall speed as it relates to the economic trajectory, we're going to also see that as we move into next year, pro-economic policies, I mean, Trump does not get reelected without economic strength. And so I think in the intermediate run, we have...
It sounds like you're agreeing with John.
And what would you say we have right now, Rob?
It sounds like you're agreeing with
What would you say
John.
we have right now?
As it relates to...
Economic strength?
No, I think we're
You
decelerating.
don't think so? So
I think we're
consumer
hold on.
confidence beating
Okay,
again,
and let's
retail
look-
sales
I
beating
agree.
again.
Okay, so
and
that's
70% of the economy. So what's the? You're saying the 30%? That's what you'd focus on?
But we're not just thinking about the U.S., John. There is deceleration.
I'm investing here, though.
Okay, but I'm talking about for clients. Most clients have diversified portfolios which include multiple assets, right?
Okay.
And so when you think about globally, I'm not a bear. You know that. I've been a bull for a very long time. All I'm saying is rebalance to a slight underweight and then wait it out a little bit and reposition back in when you think the timing's right.
Okay, you guys actually agree with each other, I think, about the United States. So if you've got, I think, Rob, what you're saying, and Shannon jump in here as well, we're going to get Dom in a second on financials. If you've got a portfolio that's 50% and I'm just making these numbers up, okay? 50% U.S. equities, 20% bonds, right? 15% emerging markets and 15% other stuff, gold or real estate. What I think you're saying, Rob, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that 15% that's emerging markets, weight that down, sell some of that,
Correct.
And add to the other stuff, perhaps
And
U.S.
within the U.S., I do agree with John, too. We have a very consumer-oriented focus because the consumer, to his point, is very, very strong. It's a manufacturing section of the economy that has decelerated. We saw this in 2015, and the consumer lifted us out. We saw the same trade.
The repricing that's going in the market right now in the last 3 weeks for all assets has to do with the economic numbers pricing out what we feared. We feared a consumer recession. You're correct. We have a manufacturing recession. We were talking about
We've had a manufacturing recession for 30 years.
We were talking about a potential consumer recession. We are now in the process of pricing that possibility out of the market again. I think that's very reflective in the equities market, and certainly when you see a 10-year at 187 once again.
And I feel like this is what we were sort of waiting for as we're moving, away from the momentum factor and into the value factor. Isn't this what we're looking for as we look back on, the end of cycles and what types of sectors should start to perform well late cycle? We're actually seeing that now. So the breadth of the market that we've experienced over the last week or so should give us more comfort that we're moving into a period where potentially we could get that lift to the equity market. Now, we went, neutral weight in equities earlier this year, and I still continue to think that we are actually going to move to a decelerating economic environment. But if I look, especially in the very short term, over the next 3 weeks or so before the China talks, there's not much that I see that could potentially derail the rotation that we're seeing and some of the strength that we're seeing across sectors in the market.
But there's two kinds, and we're going to get to Dom in a second. There's two types of deceleration, Shannon. There's going from 85 on the turnpike to 75. You're still moving. You've slowed down, but you're still moving. Then you go from 75 to 25, and that's an entirely different type of deceleration. What do you see?
I would say we already went from 85 to 75. I think we've already done that. And so for me, it's determining what the pace of that deceleration. I don't think we go to 25, but we're going to decelerate further.
Okay, we're going to talk more about this as well. Let's get now the aforementioned Dominic Chu's got a market flash. You love that. I deep teased you like three times.
I love it. That tease 3 times. Thank you very much, Sully. I really appreciate it. So value-wise, could financials be one of those value sectors? They have been an underperformer, but today in particular with rising interest rates, you've got the regional bank ETF, the SPDR, the ticker KRE. It's up like 8.5% this week. That makes it on pace for its best week since November of 2016. And to put something in context here, that ETF that tracks regional banks is up 17% so far this year, but it's down 11% over the course of the past 12 months. So again, stalled out there. Take a look at some of the standout names this past week. You got SVB Financial, which is the Silicon Valley Bank parent, 12% upside. People's United Financial, also 11%. Regions Financial, 11% as well. And then Bank OZK, the old Bank of the Ozarks, up 10% as well. So if there is a value orientation, Brian, the question is whether some traders and investors think financials fit into that particular value play. Back over to you.
The thing I love about Dominic Chu is the guy doesn't miss anything. He's been spot on the mark because, when we talk, Joe, about financials, we always talk about the big boys, right? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. You run down a list this month. Lincoln National, 17% up. SVB, 16%. Ameriprise, asset manager, 15%. Northern Trust, Prudential, SunTrust, BB&T, they're all up double-digit percentages in what is supposed to be the worst month of the year for the equity market.
Let's add Cincinnati Financial. Let's add Citizens Financial. Let's add Huntington Bancorp. These are regional banks that are benefiting from a 16 basis point steepening in the 2 to 10 spread since August 28th, and a consumer who continues to exhibit consumption behavior that is friendly to the economy. Plain and simple, regional banks in that environment will fare well.
The reason to be negative here is that everything is set up so well technically, but that's exactly how you don't make money.
Negative on the regional banks?
No, just negative in general, and especially with bank strengths. Like, I know those guys that are like knee-jerk, everyone's bullish again, I'm bearish. Those guys live at home with their parents. Listen, JP Morgan just burst through today to a new all-time record high, so you could think you're smarter than the market. You're welcome to do that, but when you get leadership, look at Walmart, more new highs. Look at Target, massive gap higher, gave absolutely nothing back. Nike is set up to make a new all-time record high. SMH, semiconductors, barring another stupid tariff tweet, this probably makes a new high next week. One of the cleanest charts in the Dow, PG, Procter & Gamble. Look at the action in this stock. Nobody talks about it. Incredible chart. These are not all breaking out and firmly in bull market territory, because this is a fadeable new high here. And I would point out, you have more companies making new highs now than you did last September, and that is exactly the kind of confirmation that you want in terms of breadth. So you're welcome to fade every green day. Best of luck.
KRE is one of the great things to trade. We trade it on this show all the time. It's obviously moved up because of some of this value repositioning that we've talked about, and it's moved up because some of the backup in rates that that Joe just mentioned. Personally, I'd close that trade. I think there's a lot of headwinds for financials in the short run, most notably of which are very negative rates abroad, which are going to keep our interest rates tethered low, and it's a tough environment for the banks.
I'm going to just kind of call an audible here, and no one's talking about this company, but let's do it again, John. American Express, AXP, we talked about all these banks participating. American Express is not. It's down this month. It's down over the last 3 months when you've got MasterCard, Visa, JP Morgan Chase, all these other names are doing really well. You think with Nigerian spending alone, American Express stock would be at a record high. Anybody have a take on AXP and why it's been a laggard here?
It was an outperformer for a bit after multiple years.
It's had a good year, decent year.
Right.
But 3 months.
Multiple years of underperformance there. And that's why it played catch up for a while. That was after the Costco fiasco and some of the other missteps they had.
Dude, the stock's up 30 points this year.
Exactly.
25.
What's the problem?
It's not participating in the recent run in
this
financial.
morning?
No, over the last 3 months. Listen.
I don't know, man.
It's down 2% in 3 months. I do know.
I know, but that's okay.
No, it's down, Brian.
It's 30 points this year.
I'm asking if it's a value trade or proposition because it hasn't hit record highs like the other names that we mentioned. It sticks out as a giant company, Josh, that hasn't, in this little recent run, and I hear your point, participated.
I'm sorry, I totally disagree with you. I've been long American Express for the better part of the last 2 years. It's been a fantastic story. The stock topped out off of earnings at 129. It's now trading down at 119. The expectations for earnings were incredibly high. They missed slightly on what those expectations were. The outlook was a little bit conservative. I think this company will be fine. I don't think if you're long the name, you're
That's all I was looking for. Why is everyone barking at me about American Express?
No one's barking. It's up 100% in 36 months.
I'm out.
Hold on. It's literally up 100% in 36 months. It's a $100 billion market cap company that has doubled in 3 years. So it's just weird to hear it phrased as an underperformer. I agree with you. The last 2 weeks.
No, last 90 days, and I just was wondering if it's an opportunity because maybe it was forgotten.
15 times earnings. It's slightly below market multiple. Sure, why not?
So and Joe likes it. Then there you go. See what we did there, John?
I love
it. You need to spend more money with your Centurion
I'm
card.
on it right away.
What they call the black
You should see his pool bar bills in Vegas.
Oh, they got to be
obscene.
When is your thing in Vegas this year?
4th and 5th.
Are you gonna light it up on Amex?
I will.
I'll bill it so long. It's like see
up.
other bill. Like
I'll get
the
one
rest
right
of
now.
All right, good discussion there, guys.
And there were two of them, each with their own card.
I think this is why I got to start drinking before the show. All right, here's what's coming up on the halftime report.
Goldman slashing price target on Apple, now one of the lowest on the street. The investment committee debates it in our call of the day. Plus, John seeing unusual activity in the options market. His latest trades are straight ahead. The halftime report is back in 2 minutes. This CNBC program is sponsored by Payton and Regal.
We can't make dinner cook any faster. We can't make your phone charge any quicker. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your accounts all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nason and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again, and this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. Apps are not all protected, subject to availability and conditions.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Dreaming of a new kitchen? At Wix, we take care of everything, from expert design to an installation service you can trust. And there's a great price. Right now, there's up to 50% off kitchen installation. Speak to us today and get your kitchen installed for Christmas. For minimum spend, terms and exclusions, see wix.co.uk.
With Parliament suspended, what does this mean for Brexit? Will there be a vote of no confidence? A general election? Turbulent times lie ahead, and our team of experts are uniquely placed to give you the inside track. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk.
Hi, this is Joe from the Halftime Report. I got to tell you, I love the Ask Halftime segment. Keep those questions coming. The traders and I, we love answering those questions at the end of the show. How do you do it?
Go to cnbc.com/halftime or get us on Twitter with the hashtag AskHalftime.
All right, it is now time for your call of the day. Apple shares. They are the biggest drag on the Dow today. This after a price target cut by Goldman Sachs. The analyst reiterating his neutral rating, but he slashed his target down to 165 from 187. That is now one of the lowest on the street, and it's calling for more than 20% downside from current levels. Now, guys, this is a wonky call. The whole first couple paragraphs of the call is about how Apple TV is being priced and that it shifts revenue from hardware to services on the balance sheet. So it's kind of a wonky accounting-based call, but either way, the market doesn't. The stock's down 2.5%.
It's an interesting call because most investors really don't understand the call because, to your point, it is about...
It's an accounting.
It's about accounting. It's not about content or anything related. So it's really something that you have to understand. Listen, I think the performance today in Apple is a little bit discouraging from a technical perspective. It's got a gap. It's showing a breakdown. There could be further downside pressure. But, overall, you're talking about a company that the fundamentals are incredibly strong on, and the prevailing trend points towards it making new highs. But for whatever the day or coming weeks might lead, you might see some pressure. But I think it's technically oriented.
I thought that this was, an ease, not a straight-out downgrade as far as, even though they dropped the price from 187, so they missed that pretty bad because we were 220 when they downgraded to 165. But Katie Huberty 2 days ago took it to 247. I'd rather follow who's right. Pete said that this morning. And who's been right? Katie Huberty in this name, not the Goldman Sachs analyst, but there were some good points nonetheless. And I think maybe you get into a little bit of a gap space here between 212 and 217.
We really like the stock here, and first of all, we like the fact that every 60-day period since they've released an S model, the stock's been positive. So that's going back through the last 4 releases. The other thing is that we have an upgrade cycle coming for the 6 and the 6S. That's pretty meaningful, and we think that's actually a little bit underpriced in the stock. So, I see the report, and to Joe's point, I think once you dig into it, there's some merit to the argument.
I feel like Shannon, there's got to be something bigger here that I'm missing, because I had a little panic attack when I read it because it reminded me of accounting in college, right? And literally they got an example of what the guy's talking about. If you buy an iPhone for $1,000, you get a free Apple TV Plus subscription. That's a $60 value effectively, because $5 a month for Apple TV over 12 months, and they're going to shift that $60 as a discount to the balance sheet on the services side. And I feel like, Joe, as I read this, the analyst is trying to tell us something, that Apple is making a more seismic shift in the way it accounts than we think, but it's also going to reduce the selling price of that iPhone by 60 in a sense, because where that discount is applied.
Yeah, I think the analyst did a great job in just basically confusing everyone. To your point, I
think what I just said was probably the most confusing thing
certainly, by the way, it
ever been said on CNBC this week, to be honest with you.
But you have to have
it's almost over. Bro.
You have to have an accounting degree, and you have to understand. Look, what I'm trying to prepare the viewers for is that for the first time you might see a technically driven narrative surrounding Apple, and it might be one that points for a little bit of selling pressure, but I don't think it takes away from an overall very strong fundamental story
on Apple.
Just be prepared to know that there might be some pressure based on near-term chart.
Okay. So Goldman's been upgrading and downgrading this stock multiple times a year, every year for the last 15 years. when it's gone from $10 to $220. What I like to do is print these reports out and eat my lunch on top of them. I really don't understand why something like this, where they're shifting how they account for the revenue, would be enough to drop a stock or even make a stock go higher. The bigger picture story here is that the company absolutely is becoming more of a consumer staple, less of a consumer hardware play, and now more of a consumer services play on top of it. And anyone that doesn't understand that probably just woke up this morning. So there's nothing here. It's not terribly relevant. I think it's an interesting way of thinking about how they're going to be accounting for revenue. But at the end of the day, I don't think it moves the needle as far as anyone's fundamental outlook for the company.
That's the reason I brought it up, Josh.
You're right.
And I have to believe there's something more in here, because otherwise there's just a lot of accounting lessons, and then we can just... We've all been there and done that. It's no fun.
Let's see where the stock goes out today.
Do you think the Apple Card for the analyst still works?
Oh gosh, does anybody here? Has anybody around the table gotten?
Nobody's excited about that thing.
Has anybody around the table gotten the Apple Card?
Which is, by the way, with Goldman.
Yeah,
per this downgrade.
That's a great point.
I was told I can't put it in.
Not anymore.
We're moving the Apple Card business.
Jamie Dimon here
with the Aramco IPO. All right. More on the tech trade ahead. Plus, Mr. John Najarian seeing some unusual activity in the options market. You got to stay with us to get his latest trades. The halftime report is back. After this, the Dow up 46.
At Fidelity, we believe your money should...
We can't make dinner cook any faster. We can't make your phone charge any quicker. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your accounts all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Already looking forward to next summer? At Jet2 Holidays, we love taking you to your favourite sunny destinations, including Menorca, Antalya and the Algarve. So get ahead and book summer 2020 now. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. Abtra protected.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
The wait is over. Critics are calling Hustlers a cultural moment, jaw-dropping, a wild ride, and a must-see girls' night out.
We should go to a club. We should go to the strip club.
J-Lo gives a career-best performance in the movie of the year.
So, are you in?
Hustlers, in cinemas now, rated 15.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he is cautiously optimistic about getting a new withdrawal deal with the EU by October 31st. He was fielding questions over the Brexit crisis at a convention in the northern English town of Rotherham.
I'm seeing President of the Commission and the Chief Negotiator, Michel Barnier, on Monday, and we'll talk about the ideas that we've been working on, and we'll see where we get. I mean, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic.
A huge transport strike in Paris paralyzing the French capital and its suburbs as unions protest sweeping pension reforms by the French government. 10 metro lines were closed and several others were severely disrupted in what may be the biggest disruption since 2007. Back here at home, a protester interrupted an event where former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer was set to appear. The protester ran on stage prior to Spicer and was immediately taken down by police. Spicer appeared a short time later. And that is the news update at this hour, guys. I'll send it back to you, Brian.
All right, Sue Herrera, some pretty dramatic video there. Thank you very much, Sue. All right. On semiconductor, that stock has surged more than 8% in a week. And options traders, they're preparing for more gains ahead. Let's find out why we say that. John Najarian with that and more unusual activity. What are you seeing with ON, O-N?
All right, Brian. Well, they're buying calls aggressively in this name. So they've been right so far. Let's see if they continue to be right. They're taking a shot all the way out into April. So take a look at this. April 25 calls with the stock just over 20. Does that mean that they believe it goes through 25 and back to some of the recent highs, which I guess over the last year might have been around 26? Not necessarily. They're paying $1 for these calls, Brian, so they've bought 30,000. That's 3 million share equivalent in this name today. It's a lot of buying. Several blocks were over 15,000 contracts at a time. It's a big block. So what does that mean? I'm in these. I'm going to be in them for months. And it's just 5% of the value of buying the stock, Brian, because you're controlling some of that upside for $1 versus putting $20 on the table. Second one, take a look at what's going on in Rambus. This is $13 and some odd cents. Nope, moved over 14 now. It was, what, $13.55 when we started seeing this activity earlier today. Now it's up over $14, and they were buying September calls that are very short dated, but the ones that I focused on after scalping some of those was the October 14 issue. They also bought an awful lot of those. As you can see, it's up over 5,000 contracts there now. Like this one as well, Brian, shorter term though, probably be in them 2 to 3 weeks.
John, I got to tell you, there's great stuff on in Rambus. Rambus, not a name. Everyone kind of looked at each other. Not a name we've talked about in a decade.
Yeah, maybe even longer than a decade. It might be way back to the tech wreck.
Yeah, the new Rambus movie's coming out where Stallone fights his way out of it.
I liked Rambus 3 when they went to Afghanistan. I feel like the critics were like overly harsh.
They drew first blood, not me.
That's right. That's right.
Fine.
First blood. They drew first blood.
Okay, here we go, John. Thank you. All right, big technology under fire again. The antitrust investigation into Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google advancing today. The House Judiciary Committee asking the companies to turn over documents related to internal operations, including financial data, prospective mergers, and more. This follows 50's attorneys general launching an investigation into Google earlier this week. Facebook has also confirmed it is under investigation by the FTC as well. And the one thing, guys, that we have not seen, Joe, is a big drop in any of these stocks. How come?
Because when they get the reports from the tech companies, the Judicial Committee doesn't understand what they're reading. It's plain and simple. We continue to have this regulatory pressure on large cap technology, mega cap technology names, and the policymakers that are summoning these executives to whether it's Washington, D.C. or Europe. They really don't understand the business itself. I think if you're looking for policing within the technology business, I think it has to come from the executives in technology itself. I think
they want the they want to be self-regulated because then they can basically write their own regulations.
It's
like a kid.
But they understand.
Don't punish me, Mom. How about if I go to my room for a day? Okay, fine. Let's do that because then you create your own reality.
Well, for Brian, for the investor base, you want that. You do not want people that don't understand the industry writing the regulations, and that's the fear. Okay, that you can have as an investor. However, I think the reality, and it's reflected in these stock prices, is the investor community is smart enough to know that that's really not going to be the end result.
We also have to think about this in terms of what can they actually prove, because this is not like in Europe where you can actually fine companies for competitive harm. You have to prove consumer harm according to our current regulations and our regulatory environment. And, absent higher prices, that's really the only quantifiable way right now.
And given that the average price is free.
Exactly. So I agree with Joe. I think this is going to take a really long time for all of these, government officials to realize they don't really know what they're looking at, and I don't think it's going to harm these companies at all.
So we just recently went underweight tech, actually this week and last week. And, part of it is in tactical portfolios, we're looking to take advantage of valuations reaching decade highs and the fact that we think they're very exposed to trade and year-over-year earnings comps are turning negative. I think that's a trade issue. This is a headline issue, and I don't think you can overreact to the headline issues unless they become pervasive as we go into the election.
Was this, Rob, part of your thesis in underweighting tech, or was it literally everything else?
It was.
So how come this
really
wasn't
everything.
part of that? Why aren't more people worried about this? If they, they talk about maybe breaking up, Alphabet or Google, making spin-off YouTube. In fact, there seems to be a school of thought that if that was the worst case scenario, it might actually unlock some value in Alphabet.
It's fair, but those seeds have not been completely sown to react to. I think in the interim, we do know how well technology has done recently. We do know valuations. We do know earnings deceleration. And keep in mind, there's haves and have-nots, and there's companies like Apple that are potentially exposed to both of these, right? So I think in the more intermediate term, if you believe trade is going to play out exactly as outlined by the president, technology companies are going to come under some pressure. And I think you want to be sensitive to that and more focused on the consumer side of the economy.
All right, good discussion there, and a big story regulatorily coming up on big technology. Well, straight ahead here, the desk is going to answer your questions. Of course, you know this, but you can reach us at cnbc.com/halftime or tweet at us as well. We've got your questions coming up. NASDAQ just turning negative. It looks like no record highs today, but will we actually break the win streak? Dow at 45. We're back right after this.
Delivering Alpha, the most important investor summit 9 years running. Strategy from leading alpha generators. Direct access to policymakers and government leaders. On September 19th, see who's calling the shots now. Go to deliveringalpha.com to attend this year's blockbuster event.
You will come away with ideas that you can put to work immediately.
Plus, special guest Vice President Mike Pence talks economy and trade war impact. Reserve your spot now at deliveringalpha.com.
Tell him we're flexible. Don't worry. My Dutch is okay.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nason and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
At Jet2.com, we love flying you to new places, like Preveza, with its beautiful Parga area and Lefkas Island, or Zadar, set along the dreamy Dalmatian coast. Book now and discover somewhere new for summer 2020. Jet2.com, friendly low fares.
Did you know Carphone Warehouse does business? That's why we understand how hard it is to go from this to this. But when you switch to the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone with O2, you don't have to. It's packed with features to help you stay on track on the move. So, if you want to end your summer feeling like this and not this, switch and save today with O2 and get the Samsung Galaxy S10 with 60 gigabytes of data for only £43 per month. Visit your nearest store or go online at business.carphonewarehouse.com/switch and save.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us.
The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI events.
1 in 2 people believe they should check their work email on holiday. 1 in 3 believe it's okay to eat a colleague's lunch. And 1 in 14 believe it's okay to steal loo roll from work. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
Welcome back to the Halftime Report, everybody. I'm Kelly Evans, and here's what's coming up today on the exchange. It's the most highly anticipated IPO since Uber, but could WeWork's huge real estate empire become a liability, and who's at risk from that? We'll dig into that. Plus, the Fed is heading into next week's meeting in a situation unlike any other we've seen before. We explain why and what to expect because of it. And millennials getting priced out of their local housing markets are turning to the internet to buy properties sight unseen in markets they can afford. What could possibly go wrong? The CEO of the company making it happen will join us ahead. Now back to Brian Sullivan and the Halftime Crew. Brian?
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. We'll look forward to that. Thank you. All right, so we've got a lot of great questions coming in, right? It's Friday the 13th. Maybe we get some spooky ones as well. We are now answering your questions. First up, Sam in Minneapolis. Oh, you know, asks if you should buy Ulta. The stock is down 33% in the last month, Joe. Is Ulta now a rebuy for Sam?
Are we really asking me that question after last week I revealed on the show how poorly, the performance was after earnings? Obviously, that was a very discouraging P&L for me at the end of the day when I was getting out 28% lower, and I said I wouldn't talk about this name again. This name is broken. This name disappointed me. It is broken. It disappointed me. It is a name that I don't want to talk about.
This is where Josh chimes in and goes, are you kidding me? This has been one of the best stocks in the world in the last decade.
Down 28%. It hasn't even bounced.
Is that your impression of my voice? Let me hold on.
No touch.
First of all, I don't sound like that.
I don't.
Wait, you're doing one too?
First of all, I don't sound like that. That's the first thing.
Soy milk. He does.
Wait, did you just give me a lisp?
No. Anyway, no one's.
Dude, all right.
No, nobody. We're not. Nobody said.
Sully, I love you too. You're great. I don't care what they all say about your ears.
I know.
The police called the pawn shop you robbed wants the jewelry back.
No, I was talking about how you're jumping in on the Amex thing. How it's been a great stock for a long time and it's been weak lately, and you killed me for saying that it was weak in the short term.
Ulta had been a great stock.
And do you agree that it's broken?
I'll tell you something even worse. The technicals got you into it right before they shocked the market. That happens. Yeah. Sometimes you're in a great stock, it's a momentum name, earnings are growing, and then they shock you with a decelerating quarter of sales.
Essentially been on what Joe was talking about earlier, improving consumer data. This company has low operating margin, low free cash flow. It's operating in an environment that continues to come under pressure from a number of different directions. And so despite the fact that we've seen some relative value in it more recently, I wouldn't be a buyer here.
Okay, not a buyer. There you go. Straight answer. All right, Randall in San Diego, founded by the Germans in 1909. Asks if you should sell Chewy before earnings next week. John?
I would not be selling Chewy ahead of that. I saw Lone Pine put this on their list. I know Tiger Global has put it on their list. Doesn't mean they haven't traded out of it, guys. We all know how 13Ds work. But nonetheless, I like it here right around the $30 level. I would hold it into earnings.
Okay. And finally, Daniel in Aiken, South Carolina says, does it make any sense to buy into both consumer discretionary and consumer staples at the same time, Rob? In other words, just go long the American consumer, everything.
I think that's where the strength is. So we agree with that. We're overweight both those sectors within our U.S. neutral. It's the points that John was making earlier on the show as it relates to consumer discretionary. You have strong labor, low debt service cost, low mortgage rates, and so I think there's some fundamental support there. And then within the staple side, you have a defensive characteristic, you have growth improving, and a focus on operational efficiency. So with valuations being reasonable, I think you can own both.
Okay, you can own them both. You love the American consumer, don't you, Rob?
The consummate consumer is the American consumer.
Yeah, anybody's bet against a consumer has lost bigly in the last 30 years or so. All right, bond yields, they're actually on the rise highs lately, and the Futures Now crew is going to take you through their next trades next. But first, mark your calendars. This is a big one. Jeff Gundlach sounding off on stocks, bonds, the Fed, maybe the Buffalo Bills. That's an exclusive interview right here on Halftime next Wednesday. That's what they call a big one. Not going to want to miss that. That's coming up next Wednesday. Meantime, we're back in 2 minutes right after this.
We can't make dinner cook any faster. We can't make your phone charge any quicker. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Did someone say winter sun? It's that time again. And this year at Jet2 Holidays, we're saying Cyprus. On this incredible island, you get it all. A choice of 4- and 5-star hotels, amazing ancient ruins for culture-packed days out, hiking and cycling trails for active adventures, and plenty of blue flag beaches for soaking up that winter sun. Book Cyprus now with just a £60 deposit. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. APRA and ATOL protected, subject to availability and conditions.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us.
The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
Welcome back to the Halftime Report. I'm Seema Modi, and this is Futures Now. The 10-year yield is on fire this week as equities rally in hopes of a trade war resolution rise. Brian Stutland and Jim Urio on the floor to CME. And Brian, how much trust can we really put into this week's rally in the 10-year?
I think we can put a lot of trust in it because when you look at interest rates here, they have nasty-wise on a percent change basis rallied hard. Now, 195 in the 10-year was sort of a support level. It broke there. It seems like we want to retest that on the 10-year. Then maybe we get, go back down towards that 150 mark. But I think if you're a bond investor here and you're not dumping your treasuries, I think it's crazy because to me, it seems like we don't see below 150 for a very long time unless trade talks really break down completely and it totally reverses itself and we have massive tariffs with China. I think the rally in interest rates is on here and it's going to be here to stay.
10-year yield at 1.89%, Jim. Is there a path above 2% on the 10-year?
I think the months of June and July, pretty much that whole time, it's zigzagged right around just north of 2%. I think it's heading back to that area, so I think it'll go into the 2% area. Whether or not it breaks through that on the upside, probably things have to change. Perhaps the trade war has to actually be solved, but I think it's heading back there right now.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Brian and Jim, for more on bonds and the latest trades, check out our website, futuresnow.cnbc.com. The Halftime Report is back right after this.
Futures Now is...
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P-Money. MCing from Harry Pinero and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
1 in 2 people believe they should check their work email on holiday. 1 in 3 believe it's okay to eat a colleague's lunch. And 1 in 14 believe it's okay to steal loo roll from work. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Summer wardrobe weather struggles? Introducing convertible wellies. 1 minute they're Wellington boots, the next flip-flops.
Convertible wellies, never going to happen, is it? But with the new BP Me Rewards card, getting more of the summer essentials you love more often will. Search BP Me Rewards to find out more.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Your payroll deadline is rapidly approaching, but you're not waking up in a cold sweat, afraid you've forgotten to pay your staff. Because with QuickBooks Payroll, it's all under control. So while QuickBooks is speeding through your pay runs, calculating pension contributions, and managing your taxes all in one place, you can chill like a koala in a hammock.
Search for QuickBooks Payroll. Intro offer for advanced payroll until 15th of November 2019. Visit quickbooks.co.uk for details. QuickBooks, backing you.
Read Michael Appenier's article on the key level to watch for in Caterpillar's next rally. Go to tradingnation.cnbc.com now.
All right, let us hit your Trader Blitz. Last one of the week in web security company Cloudflare starting trading today. And unlike yesterday's auspicious debut of Smile Direct, this one is up big. Cloudflare is up 24% right now. Guys, what do you think? Cloudflare, I know Josh, you like this company, or at least you're talking about it as a quality product.
Yeah, well, we've got probably 8 out of the 10 biggest investment blogs in the world, and we hosted on Cloudflare. Had no problem with the service. I think they do a really good job. There were some issues about the ethics of the company. There were like some unsavory websites that the company was responsible for hosting. They cleaned all that stuff up prior to coming public to make the story a little bit cleaner, I guess, for Wall Street, and maybe so they could sleep at night. So I do like the opportunity. It's a hot space. It's cloud. It's B2B. It's like everything that you want. So I wouldn't run from it. But obviously, like most software and tech IPOs, it's not cheap.
If I could, I would say wait for the earnings and the conference call. I want to know just how much they have cleaned up their act, so to speak. This is, I agree with Josh, this is an opportunity. It is small cap technology, which right now, small cap technology is what the investor base wants. This is a much different IPO than what we experienced 24 hours ago with Smile Direct. This is a company that's providing a service to technology customers that is needed and desired. But I want to wait, as I said at the top of my comments, until I hear exactly from management how they cleaned up their act. And I believe they did from what we've been told so far.
Okay, good stuff there. Broadcom, meantime, is in the red after reporting a revenue miss amidst semiconductor uncertainty. Shannon, what do you make of this? Semiconductors have been really front and center in the trade war.
Yeah, and I think what's happening here with Broadcom is that, you know, they did acknowledge that they felt that with weak chip demand has bottomed, but for them, they're not willing to say that we're at the point of recovery, and I think that's really why the stock's reacting today. I think if you look at their commitment to provide 50% of their free cash flow back to investors and then continue to look from an acquisition standpoint at furthering their growth, I think that the stock is probably selling off unnecessarily here, but we have seen competitive firms indicate that they are actually starting to see a recovery in chip demand. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect between what Broadcom said today and what we've heard from other competitors. So.
Okay. Meantime, GE moves to pare down its debt load through an expected $38 billion worth of asset sales. GE has been working to pare down its debt load for a long time.
Yep, and they've been cutting into it, Brian, but yeah, that's the issue with GE, and Culp addressed this out in Laguna this week, I think just yesterday perhaps, and he was talking about cutting it pretty dramatically, so people get a little more optimistic if they think he has a possibility of achieving that goal.
Stock's up 30% this year, and it's still at $9.50. I mean, just simply an incredible. And by the way, they made everybody move from Connecticut to Boston, and then now this is how. I mean, it's unbelievable.
What's wrong with that?
Just saying, it's a little tough when you pack up your house, you move to Boston, and then all of a sudden the company just starts to shrink.
Boston's a nice town.
It's a great place to live.
What is knocking? Everybody's.
No, you did.
I'm not knocking Boston. I'm knocking GE.
It's really Boston sports fans who are the problem, I think.
So
that's true. Hold on, let me do an offensive Boston accent now. I can't do the Southie. All right, the Delivering Alpha Investor Summit is back. Hard to believe, but it's its 9th year already in New York, and it's just getting better every year. You got a big lineup of CEOs, influential investors, even some CNBC talent floating around, and there is no better talent on CNBC than Leslie Picker.
Wow.
Who joins us now with a preview of what you just go just for you.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
That is so nice of you, but you're right.
I got to have somebody around the table like me.
Yeah, right here. I'll be the token
We love you, Brian.
fan on this table. In just 6 days, Delivering Alpha will bring together some of the brightest minds in the investing world. Among the legion of hedge fund managers speaking, Blue Harbor Group's Cliff Robbins, Light Street Capital's Glenn Kacher, and Omega Advisors' Leon Cooperman. Throughout September, there have been some wacky market technicalities that the hedge fund industry has been buzzing about. They're called factors. These are ETFs or other funds that track specific macroeconomic and style trends in the market. For example, there are factors for inflation or for minimum volatility, but this month, as the market has moved higher under the surface, there was a sharp decline in the momentum factor and a big rise in value. Hedge funds were largely positioned in the opposite way, long momentum, short value, so the moves could make for a dent in their September returns. Sculptor CIO Jimmy Levin told us yesterday what he thinks was the cause of these factor shifts.
I think the trigger for that was likely this reversal in the 10-year that we've had this month. That kind of got it going, and because of how much capital is set up to chase these factor moves, it really stretches things out to an extreme.
According to BlackRock, there's a whopping $1.9 trillion in the factor industry, which they expect to triple over the next 3 years. Now, this and other topics about markets and investing will fill the day of Delivering Alpha with other notable speakers who include Vice President Mike Pence, P&G CEO David Taylor, Trian's Nelson Peltz, and JP Morgan's Mary Erdos. So anyone who wants to hear the Vice President talk about factors, be sure to tune in.
Good stuff. Or come to Delivering Alpha.
Or come to Delivering
Good
Alpha.
stuff. All right, final trades quickly. Joe.
USB.
USB. All right, Josh.
JP Morgan, staying long.
Okay, staying long. Rob.
EDV, Vanguard Extended Duration ETF.
Shannon.
IPG, Interpublic Group.
John.
TWOU, Brian. It's about a $19 stock, and they're buying the 2250s during the show.
Okay, some new names there, some good stuff we have in here. Guys, great stuff, great hour. Thank you all for doing it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for watching Halftime Report on this Friday. Have a great weekend. The Exchange begins now.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everybody. Here's what's ahead of us. Markets are almost touching all-time highs on hints of a trade deal today. If we get a deal, how much higher will stocks go, or will it be a buy the rumor and sell the news kind of event? We're going to debate that, she said. Plus, New York, London, D.C., Chicago, and all of these cities, WeWork is the largest office tenant. What happens if the company can't pay its bills? We'll ask as their IPO prospects keep dwindling. And a Fed meeting like no other is just days away, and now you have a major rebound in global interest rates. Are markets still demanding a rate cut? That's all ahead of us, but we begin with today's markets, and Dom Chu with those numbers.
All right, so we do have a relatively calm market today, a bit mixed, as you can see here. The Dow Industrials clinging to some marginal fractional gains here, up about 40 points at this stage. The S&P 500 still about 0.5% away today from record highs, still holding above that 3,000 level, perhaps psychologically significant, but it's still just about flat on the day, and the NASDAQ down by just about 0.2%. One place that has been leading the market higher in some ways is the aerospace and defense industry, because that particular industry is reflected by the iShares U.S. Aerospace and Defense ETF, up about 0.75% today. The reason why it's important here is because that level there, we'll put a star next to it, is a record high for this particular ETF. And by the way, those shares moving sharply higher since the lows that we've seen, about 41% since Christmas Eve. And then one place we also want to watch on a big day for interest rates, the financials, the mega cap ones like JP Morgan Chase, up 2% right now. And another star for this particular stock, because that is a record high for JP Morgan Chase as well. Financials, a key focus. Watch them and those regional banks in today's trade. Kel, back over to you.
All right, a lot of things on all-time high watch. Thanks, John. Welcome to the exchange, everyone. I'm Kelly Evans, and some big moves in the Treasury market. The 10-year yield hitting 1.87% today. It was at 1.81 this morning. It was at 1.71 yesterday. It has surged by the most in any week now since 2016. The move helping to fuel the regional banks. The KRE ETF is up 8% this week, also its best performance since 2016. And all this as August retail sales came in twice as strong as expected, up 0.4 on the month. The increase was driven by a jump in vehicle spending. Let's drill down on these markets now with Bob Bassani at the New York Stock Exchange. A lot of potential headlines here, Bob.
Yeah, that U.S. consumer, that retail sales, very important. We're saving the world, the U.S. consumer. Dow on pace for its 8th straight gain. That's quite a move. S&P 500 on track for a 3rd straight weekly advance. Remember the big drivers of this rally. 4 important points here. Better U.S.-China trade headlines. Lower geopolitical tensions. Expectations of more rate cuts. And I think most importantly, a strong U.S. consumer. August retail sales, September Michigan consumer sentiment both beat. The U.S. consumer is saving the world economy right now, and that's resulting in cyclical sectors. You see here banks, transports, retailers, and energy. They've all rallied nicely this week. And are they rallying again today? Finally, we got another strong IPO. Web security firm Cloudflare just went public right behind me. Pricing at $15 above the range, opened at $18, still strong. Right now, $18.53. Software is a really big sector, but recent software IPOs like Zoom and CrowdStrike, they're down for the week. Kelly, back to you.
Yeah, it makes it all the more remarkable, its performance today, Bob. Thanks very much, Bob Bassani. Now, in the span of less than 10 hours yesterday, we got reports on a possible interim trade deal with China, followed by an absolutely not from the White House, followed by an I'd consider it from the president. So what is this all really telling us? Eamon Javers is live at the White House with the very latest. And Eamon, this morning, some more trade news on China about their ag purchases.
Yeah, that's right, Kelly. A bit of a wild ride yesterday. Now we're seeing the Chinese side signaling maybe a little bit more openness in terms of the willingness to buy U.S. agricultural products. That seems to be of a piece with the openness that we saw from the president earlier in the week, extending that China deadline. But yesterday, boy, what a ride as we got those initial reports that officials here were discussing the idea of a possible smaller trade deal where you don't remove all of the tariffs, but some of them in exchange for some Chinese concessions. Then a senior administration official telling me the president was, quote, absolutely not considering a smaller trade deal, implying that it was sort of all or nothing on the trade deal. And then we heard the president, as he left for an event at the White House last night on the South Lawn, answering a question from a reporter about an interim trade deal. And he said the following thing: pay attention to the words, I guess, because White House aides are saying here that there is no misunderstanding about the president's intent. He does not intend to pursue a smaller trade deal. And the word I guess here, a lot of it hinges on that. Listen to this soundbite.
I see a lot of analysts are saying an interim deal, meaning we'll do pieces of it, the easy ones first. But there's no easy or hard. There's a deal or there's not a deal. But it's something we would consider, I guess.
So the president there is saying he'd consider it, I guess. Ultimately, aides here are suggesting that there's no miscommunication, no mixed messages being sent by the White House. The president was asked about an interim deal. He said he wanted a big deal, and then sort of hypothetically, theoretically said, I guess we would take a look at it. Aides are saying that was sort of a throwaway comment and not the thrust of what the president was trying to convey. The president was saying there that what he wants is the big deal still. So that's where we are on that messaging. But bear in mind, there are different factions inside this White House. You know, if you look at it on a continuum from maybe a Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, who is seen as more eager to get to a deal, even if it's a smaller deal, and then Robert Lighthizer, the U.S. Trade Representative, who is seen as more hawkish. The question is, where on that continuum does the president stand at any given moment? And that's what everyone's trying to figure out, Kelly.
And Eamon, we also had kind of a study in contrast last night. At the Democratic debate, there was a lot of talk about raising taxes to pay for Medicare or other various proposals. The president, meantime, floated the idea of a middle-class tax cut. Have we learned anything more about how likely something like that would be or what it might look like?
Yeah, a lot of people's ears pricked up when the president said that, you know, the idea that they might pursue another middle-class tax cut. What I'm told by aides here is that there is no plan for a new middle-class tax cut this year or next, despite what the president suggested last night. That is, they are working on some ideas for what they've called Tax Cuts 2.0 that'll be part of the campaign season rhetoric next year. They're going to campaign, the president is, for re-election on the idea that if you re-elect me and a Republican Congress, we're going to go after more tax cuts for the middle class in 2021. But as far as 2019 and 2020, aides here acknowledge the political reality, which is that Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. Nothing is likely to come out of a Democratic House that they support in terms of tax cuts, and they're pushing all of this forward to the campaign season next year, Kelly.
I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about it then. Eamon, appreciate it very much. Thank you, Eamon Javers. Look at stocks, which are climbing back to just under all-time highs right now. The Dow is up 45 points. The S&P is positive. The NASDAQ negative. And by the way, the Dow hasn't had an 8-day win streak in over a year, and we're looking at that potentially today. And there's the 10-year. No sooner did I say we hit 1.87% today than we've climbed even further to 1.891 or 2 as we look at it right now. We'll continue to track that for you. 30-year, 2-year notes also moving higher. If a China trade deal actually materializes, will stocks rocket to new highs or will investors sell on the news? For more on all of this, let me bring in Paul Christopher. He's head of global market strategy at Wells Fargo Investment Institute. And Peter Bugvar is chief investment officer of Bleakley Advisory Group and a CNBC contributor. Peter, I'm just going to start on these bond moves today. I mean, if this were a stock, its chart would be, you know, it would look like the best IPO of the week. What's going on with bond yields?
Well, I think it's two things. I think it really started a few weeks ago when we started to get a sense that there was pushback within the ECB. Even though we saw yesterday what they actually did, there's sort of a mini revolt going on.
Yes.
Also, interestingly enough, in Japan, the Bank of Japan and some members within it are actually getting concerned that interest rates are falling too much. So here you have what I think is a potential monetary endgame in the extremity of this easing.
Okay.
And if you say that negative interest rates will basically stop here and that the Bank of Japan actually wants rates to go up, that creates a floor.
Sure.
So that started the rise in interest rates, and then you had the potential for a trade deal that then exaggerated the move upwards.
So you could sort of say three legs of the stool all of a sudden. Global bond yields are moving higher. The data lately, this whole week, really has been really supportive. And the trade deal. You know, you put all those three factors together. Paul, I'll quickly ask you as well. What are the implications, especially for the stock market, which today is taking this in stride? You know, obviously there are going to be sectors that do better than others in a rising rate environment, but we're almost touching all-time highs here.
Right. I mean, we have to remember the stock market already has been tripped up twice this year when optimism suddenly turned pessimistic in May and then again in August. So there's likely to be some people sitting on the sidelines still cautious. We're among them. So, yeah, if they do a small deal, it would be positive, we think, for equity markets. Question would be for investors, how long does that last? Because you really still have to keep talking, and all the big rocks are still there to move on both sides.
But I think there are some times in the market, Peter, where you can look at things getting to such an extreme and say, it only takes a little bit of something to start this fire, right? And what we saw in August with bond yields is that very thing. So the big question now is how much higher do they go from here? So we went down below 1.5% on the 10-year. We'll call it at 1.9% now. What's the next stop?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic when you have negative interest rates because a negative yielding bond is no longer an asset, it's a liability. It's the ultimate hot potato. So let's just say people are becoming convinced that, yeah, the ECB can't go negative anymore because of the revolt inside. Bank of Japan wants higher interest rates. Maybe the Fed's going to only give us one rate cut because core CPI yesterday printed an 11-year high and has bid 2% plus for 18 straight months. So if you have people out of the door, out of negative yielding bonds, who knows how quickly that can move. And U.S. 10-year, you can do all the analysis on growth and inflation in the U.S., but the 10-year is going to go in the U.S. where the German 10-year is going to go and where the JGB 10-year is going to go.
Which also explains why it's so low right now. I want to just mention, because you guys do have some tactical ways to play this market before we go. Peter, you like the cruise lines. You like some ag-related stocks too. Real quickly, what are those, Nick?
Well, as a value investor, I appreciate the move to value from growth over the past week. The fertilizer companies, Mosaic and Nutrien, cheap stocks. It's been an awful planting season. I'm expecting a much better one next year. And the large demographic tailwind of an aging population and growing middle class, Carnival and Royal Caribbean, cheap stocks, good dividends.
Okay, and Paul Christopher, you do it more from the sector point of view.